Immortal,
Yeah.
gained the infamy
My
it did.
My Immortal is also old enough that's in that very sweet period of the internet where it's a coin flip.
Yeah.
It
Also,
could have
we
been
don't even
serious,
know if they're
or it could have
actually
been.
the poster and they're just the person that's coming forward claiming it. It's a whole thing. But I actually have a couple stories today before we begin. Some funny shit. So, as we all know, Orf is now working at the company I work at.
I did not know that, but God help
Well,
him.
what, they gave Orph a call and not me? Okay.
Yeah, because you see, Orf did the thing that I told him to do that you didn't do, which was he applied to the training program, which guarantees you the employment if you complete it. And I told you that.
Oh.
I genuinely don't remember that.
You don't remember a lot of things I tell you, so I'm not surprised.
Incredibly rude, but true.
Of course it's true.
But yeah, so he went through the training program, and because they guarantee if you pass the training program with an above 80%, they basically guarantee you get hired. But the training program is
Damn.
literally brain
Yeah.
dead easy.
That's
Um,
80% of what is probably even easier to pass than the A+ certification.
Oh,
And
100%.
the only reason A+ is any amount of difficulty is because it's a shotgun spread to a bunch of shit that changes every 1 to 2 years at
Well, the only
the
reason
current
why
point
A
in time.
plus is remotely difficult is because it's a bunch of technical words for super basic shit where they're like, yes, this is the computer access method randomization algorithm. And it's like, what the fuck does that mean? This is how the computer turns on. Oh, okay. It's like, why do we have some fucking why do I need to know the fancy name for it? Doesn't fucking matter. And that's why I never got
Like,
my A plus certification.
I mean, I just didn't get it because I realized early on that certifications are absolutely fucking useless, and it's better to have someone who can learn on the job and has experience on the job over someone who has a fancy piece of paper saying they passed an exam.
Oh, well, yes, but no. Certifications are actually more useful than a degree when it comes to getting hired for an IT job, because that's what a lot of IT companies still look for, is they look for someone with a certification, because that means they recently took that test, which means they've recently had the knowledge in their head. Doesn't mean they're actually able to use the knowledge, but that's a whole
Well,
different story.
like I said, it is more useful to have someone who can learn on the job and apply knowledge. I want someone who can apply the theoreticals, not someone who knows the theoreticals.
Yeah, well,
I'm
unfortunately, in
like
the era
I
we live in,
I'm not in an R&D department. I'm in IT at a help center. I need
I know.
people who can actually do the job, not people who can theoretically do the job.
Right, but you see, the problem is that the people hiring for the job don't know how to do the job, so all they see is a
Oh, I
fancy
know.
piece of paper saying that they can do that job, which means, oh, that means they 100% are capable of doing that job. Anyway, so yeah, Orf is working with me now, so that's great. We're having a fun time with that. He's learning why I am the way I
alcoholic.
am. But yeah, so that's going on, and I was taking a call when I was talking to him today. The customer was, yeah, and they were angry that their laptop wasn't responding to their inputs at one
Did they forget
point.
to turn the mouse on?
They did not click the password box, so of course it wasn't inputting the password because they didn't select the password box. But yeah. So that was a funny little segment right there. But no, in more totality, what exactly happened was, let's see here. Where the fuck is my? Let me just pull this up here because this was just so fucking stupid. Here. So also another news, the Google Chat app is a worse UI than the Google Gmail app with the chat function.
You're surprised? I
Yes,
thought
because
they
it's
killed that years ago.
no, of course not. No, because the Google, so there's the Gmail app, and you can access Google Chats through the Gmail app, and then the Google Chat is its own separate app as well that just loads the Google Chat of the Gmail app. But the
Yeah.
and it's mirrored 1-to-1. There is one
Yeah.
difference between the Gmail chat app and the chat app standalone. The chat app standalone doesn't have a notification pop up for when people message you. The Gmail app does.
Thought it was supposed to use desktop notifications.
Well,
did at
it
one point.
fucking doesn't. So, well, because what it does, because on my screen at least, when you're in the Gmail app using chat, it has a little bubble that pops up that you can click on that brings you right to their messenger. But if you're in
Yeah.
the chat app, it doesn't have that bubble to click on, or does a beep and doesn't do a notification either. And
I
so
could
it's
have
just like,
sworn
are
they
you
had
fucking kidding?
killed the separate app. At the same time, they shut off access for third-party apps like Ventrilo or Pigeon.
I have no idea.
Like that was years back, like 5
Oh.
years at least.
So also their docking station was broken because it needed some sort of driver update because a new Windows update broke the previous driver. So I had them try while I was doing bug fixing on it. I had them plug in another docking station. I was like, "Well, do you have any other docking stations we can test?" And she's like, "Well, I don't think the docking station's broken." Like, okay. That doesn't change that we still need to test it. Well, I just got it this year. I'm like, well, that's why 1-year warranties exist, lady. New
HP
things can break. Like, they wouldn't offer you a warranty on it if it didn't fucking break.
Is that an HP or a Dell docking station?
It was some fucking off-brand docking station.
Of course it was.
I remember the Dells always crapped out. Like anytime Windows did a driver update, you had to uninstall and reinstall them wholesale.
Oh, probably. I have no idea. We basically, the thing is with the docking stations, because they can get expensive if you want the big ones with 90 million attachment ports, which some of our clients do. And some of our clients are like, why are you charging me so much money? All I want to do is put a second monitor on my laptop. My laptop that never leaves my office.
Why didn't you get a desktop?
Because the laptop was cheaper. I don't understand. Why does it keep breaking?
Then just get a 4-port dock.
No, they don't even need a 4-port dock. There's literally docks out there that are literally just 2 monitor ports.
Oh no, I'm aware of that, but since they want docks with more ports, that presumably means they have a lot of peripherals they want to also hook up to it, but they don't need the big ones. They just need like a 3 to 4 port, which will include 2 monitor outs.
Yeah, it's the wildest shit because they're like, well, I don't want to buy the tower because that's more expensive. What do you mean? I don't want to buy a more expensive laptop. That's expensive. What do you mean I need to buy a dock so my laptop actually has ports on it? It's like, well, you bought the cheapest laptop possible. That one doesn't come with ports. Oh, this is ridiculous. Why didn't you tell me this beforehand? We literally listed out in the specs.
They weren't reading that.
Oh, I know they don't read.
It's very standard to give you a list of specifications and attempt to explain it.
We do.
Help you. It doesn't help that they wave their hand dismissively when you're a quarter way down the list and they're like, I don't care about that. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much exactly how it goes. It's all right. Well, are you sure? Because it'll only have this, this, and this. I don't care about that. 30 days later, I care about it now. It's like, well, I tried telling you 30 days ago.
Just get it done. Get it here. I want this done now.
I want it now. Can you guys come and install it now? It's like, no. That's the other thing I fucking hate. Is we're a remote IT company. You need to tell us when a new employee is gonna show up, so we can get them set up before they show up. Otherwise,
Yeah.
what the fuck do you think we're gonna do? We're just gonna teleport someone there? We're gonna fire up the old sci-fi Star Trek transportal ponder and just zap someone on over? Like
I think you work next door in the same city at least.
They certainly act like it. But yeah, so she plugs the new docking station into the broken docking station and is like, I don't understand, the new docking station isn't working. I'm just like, how the fuck does replace the docking station translate to plug the new one into the old one? The old one that we don't think works.
Well, you said plug it in.
Yeah, I know. She only heard half of my statement and just made up the rest.
Exactly.
Yes,
That's the problem.
that is typical user.
Yeah, I know. It was just.
Oh. I mean, hey, at least you know where the logic lays, even though we all disagree with it.
Well, just because I can see how someone got to that point does not mean I need to accept that they use that logic to get there.
You were absolutely correct.
But
That
yeah,
is-
no,
that is
that's just
unfortunately where it lays.
yeah, is what it is. Is what it is. But yeah, so that's my little story from today. Also had oh fuck.
You alright there, Sneaky?
No, I have my fucking neck muscle is all scrunched up and angry. Let's see, what was it here? Oh yeah. I was also explaining to him, I was like, yeah, look. He's like, I don't understand. Why does no one do these proactive tasks? Of like, you know, backup reviews and shit. I'm like, well, you see, it's quite simple. They're so poorly documented that all the good ones that are correctly documented get snapped up too quickly. And so that leaves all of the poorly documented ones, and no one actually wants to go through and document that shit, because then they get blamed when they have to contact the client because we don't have the information to actually do the backup review. The backup review that we've told the client we've been doing for the past year, that they've been paying for. So, everyone kind of just like, is like, you know, hey, if we don't do it, they don't know.
No, that's bad because eventually somebody gets audited and then it comes out that you haven't been doing it and the shit
Yeah.
really hits the fan.
Yeah, pretty much. It's happened several times now. It's hilarious every time.
It's happened before?
Yeah.
Oh, multiple times. About like
course it
3
has.
times a month.
Honestly, documentation is a serious enough problem in IT that despite it being technically part of the job, there were times where the higher ups at the company I worked at be like, "Hey, big shout out to X employee for fixing the documentation on this thing." And it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, see, the problem
And
is
it was
that,
for an important, like, it'd be for like one of our big paying clients. So it's like, what do you mean that had to be fixed?
yeah, see, the problem here is that, you have 3 kinds of people in IT. You have the idiots who just Google the answer or rely on someone else to tell them how to do it, who never look at the documentation. Also, they don't think to correct or make the documentation. So that leaves it the job for the next 2 people. You have the 2 smart people who already know the answer, so they also don't look at the documentation. They also don't change the documentation because they don't think about the documentation because, well, they were able to do it. And so they don't kind of remember. And then you have the midwits, the ones that actually need to use the documentation, but when they finally get the answer, they don't fucking fix it.
The worst people.
So yeah, you have the two outliers, the people who actually update documentation, and the people who well, don't have the ego problem, but they also don't think to create the documentation. It's not a I think everyone's on my level ego problem. It's a how to put this? Yeah, how to put this?
It's so simple. You shouldn't need documentation.
Yeah, effectively. Because there's a lot of things I didn't create documentation for in my job that if you're at my position, you should already know these things. So
This is how you right-click on the desktop.
there's not a lot of urge to create documentation for me. I'll do it sometimes if it's like a really stupid thing. It's like, oh, you have to run this program in specifically Windows Server 2007 compatibility mode with the admin account while not on an admin account. And then you have to reboot the computer and then it will update. It's very stupid, but hey ho, it's the only thing that fucking worked. So yeah, I'll write down documentation for that because that's absolutely ridiculous and has no reason to be assumed that anyone would ever know that information. So I have no problem writing documentation for that. But the other problem is, especially at this company, but I mean, honestly, it's going to be everywhere. Like, this company actually tries to hire competent people sometimes, but a lot of places I know don't hire competent people. The other problem is that fucking midwits don't read the documentation.
Common issue.
Yeah. Like, we had a case where one of my coworkers, known midwit, and I say this insultingly, but like, keep in mind, when I say midwit, I mean actually a midwit, someone who is intelligent enough to understand stuff, but doesn't know how to apply it to situations that aren't mirroring the previous one. So he was a pain in the ass to train, because he understood all the shit I was telling him. But when it came to a situation that was similar, but not the same, he was just like, oh, what do I do next? I'm like, just fucking do the thing I taught you. He's like, oh, I can do that here too? Yes!
He cannot rotate the apple.
It's not, it has nothing to do with rotating the apple. It's that's just correlation. But no, that's just normal midwit behavior of just not understanding that you can take an answer to one problem and reapply it to other questions that might not exactly look like the same problem, but might have the same solution.
Is this about Lucifer's words that got posted a couple of days ago?
That's hilarious, but no. But yeah, so anyway, he posts in the general chat, hey guys, I've just created a new policy. I talked with the primary of this company, and they said to do this for the backups now. And I just go, bro, did you check the policy listings? What? No, why? Because I already created a policy months ago detailing that exact thing. And that the primary never wanted to be contacted about this again. Oh, is that why she was angry?
Oh Lord.
You want to know what the policy was even called? It wasn't some like fucking abbreviated gibberish, right? You know what I called the policy?
Mm-hmm.
How to handle space issues for the backup server.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Very clear what this policy was about. I even included the precise name of the backup server in parentheses in the policy. So I covered every fucking search term you could possibly use when trying to find a policy for this. And he just didn't look any of it up. It's just like, bro.
Average
Well,
experience.
you know, Sneaky, maybe you just didn't make it clear enough.
What?
It's being sarcastic.
No, I literally didn't hear you because someone decided to breathe into the mic at Mach 12.
No,
No.
so that was from my window I just closed. Apparently it's a bit of a windy day.
Oh, okay, well, tell Mother Nature to chill. I
I
was
don't think
saying,
I
clearly,
don't think I
you
can in Australia.
obviously, Sneaky, you didn't make it clear enough.
Yes, obviously, yeah. Yeah, I should have held a gun to his head and said, search the policies first, dipshit. But yeah, no, it's just it's very frustrating. Because yeah, you also have the ego problem. You know, some people get to a certain position in the company and they think they're too good to do backup reviews. They're too good to make policies. Oh, that's for the tier 1 people to do. Like, well, if you
Well,
don't tell the tier 1
mhm.
people the solution, then they can't make a fucking policy.
Well, if it's not in your job description, that's one thing.
Yeah, no, policy making needs to be something that you outline in the job requirements then, and in my experience, the grunts don't make the policy, the grunts follow the policy.
Yes.
Well, I use the
Generally.
word policy because that's what the asset is called internally in the company. But what it literally is just a text box where you put in what you did to reach the solution.
Ah.
So your
And then-
company needs to rename that to start with.
Oh, maybe.
Yep.
They
'Cause
call
I'm
it a
gonna be
policy
honest,
or procedure. But
I would rename it procedure then, and stick to that, and don't swap between the two. Keep it
yeah,
consistent.
well, yeah, God forbid we have consistency. But yeah, no, it's literally just you open it up when you create a new one, and it's just what's the name of the policy, and then text box of whatever you need to put in there to detail whatever you need to do for that. It's super easy, barely an inconvenience. You can basically just copy and paste your fucking notes on what you did to complete the task. Maybe with some more detail for the people who aren't, 15 years in the industry dealing with servers, But that's the other problem is just like there's a bunch of people in the industry, and they're very helpful. Don't get me wrong. When I go to them for help, they're very helpful. But I usually have to get someone else to fucking translate for me because they'll be like, oh, yeah, you just gotta use the CMD kaboosh and then enter the kahubaga command and with the DS mask on it, and then you slap the Subaru. I'm like, wow, that's great. Thank you for telling me the exact way to do it. However, none of those words meant anything to me. So you're going to need to use non-technical terms so I can figure what the fuck you're talking about. Because what it comes down to eventually is finally someone fucking translates it for me, and it's just, oh yeah, just go on the firewall, enable these ports, and make sure they redirect from the source address to the destination address of the IP you're using for the DVR. Like, oh wow, great. They could have just fucking told me that.
I'd say, why was that not what the other person opened with?
Because
I mean,
fuck
that's what he told
Sneaky.
you. He just used different terms.
Because fuck Sneaky, that's why.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I know, like I said, it's an ego thing where it's both simultaneously they don't think about it because that's how they think in their head, so they don't really think how I need to tell other people that information. But it's also an ego thing of, I'm gonna use the big words to make myself look smart.
Fuck layman.
Yeah.
It smacks rather dangerously of the people who are like, you will address me as doctor because I earned my doctorate, even though they're not
Ooh,
a
I hate
medical
those.
doctor.
Oh,
Yeah,
those people.
yeah.
No.
That's a no, Chief. I'm not doing that.
That's a cool story there, Chief.
I didn't spend
No.
all this money to not be called doctor. That's a you problem, isn't it?
That sounds a
Right.
lot like a
Well,
you issue.
Oh no, the correct response is yes, you did.
True.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's a multi-compounded issue in the IT industry, especially on top of the fact that HR believes that years of experience just grows on trees. You can just go outside, pick some off, and now you're suddenly 5 years experience.
Yeah.
Because they have all these jobs that they're like, oh, we need 15 years of experience in this program that came out 2 years ago. It's like, oh, how do you expect me to get that?
I don't know, just do it.
Just do it.
It's actually a very funny phenomena that's happening in the IT industry, where HR just doesn't understand what IT is asking of them. And I remember a specific case where this one company was trying to find developers for like Java.lang or some shit instead of Java.core. Like that means any fucking thing to me. But they were trying to hire for Java core, and they weren't getting any hits, and the fucking manager was getting really pissed because he's like, I need a Java Lang developer. And they're like, well, we're not getting any hits. No one's submitting. And so finally, he's like, well, fuck it. I'm going to submit my own resume under a different name to them to see if, like what the process is, where it's failing as to how we're not finding any of these fucking developers.
Oh no.
Oh, it's this one, isn't it?
HR rejects his resume because he doesn't have the required experience in Java core. And he's like, you fucking shitheels, I told you specifically what we wanted. Oh, well, we thought you meant Java core. No, that's why I didn't tell you Java core.
We thought you meant the thing that you did not say. It's a fucking reach there, boss.
I have reinterpreted your words.
See,
Beware I
here-
do not reinterpret them again.
See,
Oh.
here I expected them to be requesting 10 years of experience for a 5-year program or something.
No, that is an actual another story that happened recently.
I know.
Is the one guy, the guy that created a new programming language and then couldn't get hired for the programming language in another company because he didn't have the years of experience required, and he's like,
I created
I
it.
made this.
No one has these years of experience. It's literally
That-
impossible.
That's the best part. Is like, I made this 3 years ago. How are you wanting someone with 5 years of experience?
Well,
No,
we
you
got
didn't.
this guy who claims
Again,
5 years
Because
experience on it.
HR is stupid and doesn't do any of the research or listen to the people telling them, hey, we need someone filling these requirements. Remember,
No, they just create a fucking checkbox and then just go by the checkboxes.
HR is only there to keep the company safe, and that means fuck you.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
basically. True facts.
Never expect HR to help you, boys. I
Yeah.
know most people here already know that, but
HR's not
I
there to help you,
tried to
they're
get
there help
one
the
of
company.
It bears repeating.
when I was at my previous company, the banking company, I tried to get one of the other employees fired because she caused multiple people to quit and one of the best employees to leave for an entire week crying
Unfireable.
because she's unfucking fireable. Because she was friends with the HR lady. And so when I
Well-
submitted my request, they just gave me a fucking runaround.
You know,
I'm
I
like,
think I'm gonna
well-
make that a thing now.
Hmm.
If I ever run a company, if I find out you have any ties to my HR, either HR goes or you go.
Both.
And that'll make
I will
the
give
HR
you.
decide very
You get the
quickly.
choice. Do you get to keep your job, or does HR get to keep theirs?
Oh man, I love that. Okay, no, there's one exception to that test that I'll accept. Both of them have to take the test, and it's the prisoner's dilemma. If both of them say, put the other person in there, they're much better, then both of them get in. If either of them flips, they both go.
True. But yeah, no, it's just absolutely crazy because it's just, oh man, so close to just fucking coming in one day and cutting her throat. Holy shit.
So you enjoyed her time, her presence. Good to know.
Jesus
Good to
Christ.
know.
I haven't heard vitriol like that since like the last talked about my manager.
Well, as
Fuck.
Max knows, is that I literally was told Max about this years ago when it was happening, is that she just literally had the personality of my stepmother.
This one,
Yeah.
yes.
This
Oh,
one.
I thought it
It's
was
been
this,
a
this was
hot
the one
minute.
who did some very specific things with money counting and trying to get you fired, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was the one, yeah.
So you're
Yeah,
saying you're
that one.
willing to be her reference when she applies to your job, right?
What?
If she
Judge
applies
trying
to
to
your
be funny and
location,
failing at
You
it.
imply that she's ever going to leave the current job that she's in. She is quite happy making $17 an hour after 23 years of working the job.
ugh.
Yeah.
How do you live off of that? I know it's Vermont, but still.
She's married.
You get disability, and yeah, she was previously married. Previously, because he divorced her. But if you listen to her, she divorced him.
And she's free now. She doesn't have to deal with him.
She
Yeah.
collects alimony. I can almost
Yeah.
guarantee it.
No kids. Because I don't blame them. But, yeah. No, not a great person to be around, unfucking fireable, despite her ruining days of work.
People who try to get other people fired because they don't like them always strike me as people who probably should just look at their life for like 5 seconds.
I see.
Well,
It actually blew me away. Because it's just like, she was so proud that she had worked at that job for 23 years. And I was just like, and you never thought about not doing this job, which is basic grunt bean counter work. Like, oh, okay. That's, depressing.
No aspirations.
You're not just a red flag, you're a red runway.
True.
Damn, okay.
To be fair, she was the size of a runway, so.
Oh,
But,
there are several jokes I could make, but I don't want to make them.
Oh, right! So there's actual fan fiction related complaint. So,
Oh, hey, we're finally getting that.
yeah, so in fan fiction news, I was reading a Skyrim story.
Oh, why would you do that to yourself?
Self-insert, drop in classical, blah blah blah, right? Actually well written, right?
Impossible.
Decent pacing, good grammar, good world building, good descriptions of everything.
is this
good
one you were
narrative
complaining about on
stuff.
my server?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
But there was a small issue I took with the story, and that's the fact that I want to beat the main character to death with a bag of starving cats.
Yeah.
So why the starving cats? Why not just beat them to death?
Because I want them to get slowly clawed to death every time I strike them with the bag of cats.
I feel like a
Oh.
flail would do the same job, but you do you, pal, with the starving cats.
That
It's
is a
the
flail.
cat
It's called the cat
flail.
of nine tailed. It's the cat of
Yeah.
nine tailed.
Where do you
Fuck
think they
up.
get that?
Damn it, Cass.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. If it's a bag full, that's technically the cat of 9 lives at that point.
No. Hey,
No,
it
the
could be
cat
a
of 9
mesh
beatings.
bag.
Oh,
But,
I could definitely see that as a bloodborne weapon.
Yeah, so this guy goes on to it's just so he starts off, classic Skyrim start, right? He's doing the whole thing. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever, my name's Melkord. Comes up with Melkorn Dro Erden
No.
Okay, sure.
I hope
as
you can
his.
feel the disgust from me.
Oh, I knew that would get a particular reaction out of you. Yeah, he's a dark elf, aka Dunmer. And the author. At first, I kind of ignored it, right? But he kept bringing it up. So the author constantly has this whole little segment every chapter where he has a whole body dysmorphia moment where he's like, can't get over the fact that he's in a different body. And it's not because he's taller or shorter or less fat or more muscular or less muscular. No.
20 years, no.
What causes him to have his body dysmorphia is that he's black now.
The silence is telling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at the first, I kind of waved it off because it's like, all right, yeah, fucking, Dunmer skin, kind of fucking out there in terms of a skin tone. Definitely gonna be a little bit weird.
Look
But-
like leather.
It is what it is, right? The first seeing it, you're like, oh damn. But I don't really see why you would have any mention about it beyond that. But yeah, he just can't get over the fact that his skin is black now. Because he keeps bringing that part up. It's always that specific part that he has an issue with. So that's a whole box of issues already. But he also throws constant bitch fits. He throws a bitch fit about not having a gamer system. He throws a bitch fit about not being able to consume the book
I
that
don't think
teaches
you want
Sparks.
a gamer system that's based off of Morrowind. I feel like that's just suffering.
No, I think that'd be great. Anyway, he bitches about not having not being able to consume the book that teaches Sparks. He has to actually read it and learn how to use his magic to cast Sparks. So he throws a bitch fit about that. He throws a bitch fit about not instantly unlocking his mana upon reading the primer. Has a whole fucking multiple thousands of words segment complaining about that. Then has another bitch fit over not instantly mastering Sparks the second he unlocks his mana finally.
It's almost like he's not playing a game and he's actually supposed to be living in the fucking world where it takes time and effort to learn shit. Even for someone like the
No.
Dragonborn.
And then, speaking of, he then throws another bitch fit about how he spent hours trying to do shouts. Dragon shouts, and then he wasn't able to do them.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he just got out of Helgen. And he's like, well, I know how to say Foos. Why isn't Foos occurring?
Because even Skyrim canon tells you need to understand the word intricately. It has to be fucking basically tied into your very soul.
Or,
No, but
alternatively,
that's-
you can be a
you can't just
Dragonborn
know.
and use Dragon
Yeah.
Souls as a shortcut.
Yes. But even if he
yeah.
is the Dragonborn, he doesn't have Dragon Souls, does he?
Nope, no Dragon Soul. Hasn't killed a single dragon yet.
So why would he think he can fucking do it?
Oh, because he knows the word. That's all you need.
Alright then. You should have left a review. Alright then, what does Foos mean?
But, the dude also goes on and has multiple delusional internal monologues about how he's going to become so strong and so powerful. He's going to go become a werewolf vampire lord, kill Harkon, take over all the vampires, kill the Empire, kill the Thalmor, rule
he's gonna die.
Tamriel. He's going to become a master mage of god tier power. Yeah, he's just totally going to do all these things. Absolutely, just yeah, he's just gonna do them. Duh, obviously. But constantly throws bitch fits whenever things take time. Like he gets some gold finally, and has a whole running internal monologue complaining that the merchants are daring to sell things like health potions
Instead of just giving them away.
for gold instead of silver or copper.
Ugh.
He's like, I can't believe I have to spend gold coins on this health potion that no one but specific few amounts of people in the cities know how to make while I'm in a fucking outpost village.
So he's annoyed about the economy.
Yes.
He's annoyed about he's being retarded. That he is retarded.
He's annoyed about the economy and also doesn't understand that when a war is going on, the armies might be buying all the ingredients to make health potions.
What are you talking about? He probably
motherfucker.
doesn't even remember the Civil War side quest, which means the war's not happening.
No, he knows about the Civil War side quest. He's gonna help the Stormcloaks.
So obviously, it's not going on in the background. It has not progressed without him.
But yeah, so anyway, what made me finally drop the story? Well, Nucky, not finally drop the story, but then he got to another part, and I actually fucking I have to quote this just so you guys know I'm not fucking joking about it. Let me post it here. Here we go. Yeah, so he's walking down the road and gets ambushed by 3 bandits, and he kills the 2 male bandits, the guy with the spear and a guy with the hammer. And then he finally goes to go fight the bandit that's been shooting arrows at him the whole time. And he looks at her and is like, "Oh my god, that's a woman. I can't hit a woman." And then she shoots him in the knee. He's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna fucking die, so I won't hit a woman." And so he shoots her with a lightning bolt. And she dies. Yeah. But then when he was sitting at the campfire, he's like, he gave no shits about the 2 guys he killed. But he's sitting there at the campfire having a small pity party about how he killed a woman. He was a protector of all women, and then he went and killed a woman.
Oh,
She had a
God.
knife. No, she had a knife.
This entire thing is just screaming to me leftist moment. Even the accidental racism from skin color.
It very much is, and it's just like it's why I was like, man, I'm starting to really not enjoy this story because the fucking main character is just such a piece of
Of course you
shit.
expected it to act like a taser. Don't you know in the Skyrim game, Sparks is the weakest spell, despite being lightning?
What did he expect? The lightning to act like a taser? No. He wasn't trying to take her alive or any stupid shit like that. He steeled himself and accepted that he would have to kill the bandit woman. But then he, had his whole little pity party over the fact that he had to harm a woman.
Notice how he killed 2 men without even basically seeing them as human. But the moment he tried to get the woman to surrender and she struck back, he struck. Like, he was 100% hoping, oh, I killed your 2 other bandits, but I left you alive. Fuck me as thanks. Like, he probably thought.
No, it wasn't fuck me as thanks. It was just like, he was kind of like just generally hoping she would, like, run away or something, I guess.
White knight moment.
But the other best part is here in Skyrim, women can kill me as easily as men can. As opposed to real life, where women are completely incapable of harming men.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
didn't
no
get your
woman
force
ever
field?
picked up a knife or a gun.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm still waiting on my anti-woman force field from the
That's
secret
impossible. You played
misogynist.
Dota. You definitely received it.
No, the patriarchy issues that
How
day
great-
one, bro.
Yeah,
Our great patriarchal
apparently it's
leader,
just in the
Grand
mail
Lord-
still.
Our great patriarchal leader, Grand Lord Baron Trump, successor
Yeah.
of Great Master Donald Trump, has sent you your shield in the mail.
Yeah, it's just lost in the mail. I don't know what to tell you.
Like, just ask at the next secret guys meeting, okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, my bad. I don't go to those either, though.
What?
Well,
Hang
there's
on a
the
minute.
problem. Go make friends with your grand
You
wizard.
of all people skipped the free beer table?
Yes, I hate beer. It's fucking awful.
They have a free scotch table
It
No,
just,
they
and a
don't.
free
you know,
whiskey table.
tucked in
That's
the
a
back.
lie.
You gotta ask for it.
It's a part of the secret menu.
I'll make sure to ask Aura next time I see him there to check the back for me.
Next to the cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, but yeah, no, it's just, it was just, it's just, that's what sealed the deal for me, that this guy was a leftist. Because he was just like, oh yes, women, completely incapable of harming me in the real world. But in this fantasy world, any woman could pick up a bow or sword and harm me.
Yes, because surely they would never do such a thing in reality. They
Well,
are
you,
too
you,
fair.
you
a
see,
creature.
weapons in reality are actually sex locked. If you're a woman, you just simply can't equip a weapon.
So wait a minute.
Be here.
Fire
people.
Emblem was right?
Yeah, Fallout was right.
Mm-hmm.
I said Fire Emblem, not Fallout.
Oh.
Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem is correct as well.
Yeah, that too.
Because
I will
in
stab you.
Fallout,
Of course,
But are
that
they-
explains why we don't have Pegasus and unicorns anymore, because that
Yep.
was the only time women could equip weapons when they were mounted on the back of the
obvious.
Well,
Obviously, yeah.
no, it's actually Shadow Dragon Fire Emblem, and with the Excalibur Aura difference, where one can only be wielded by men, the other by only women.
Aura had such a cooler animation.
It did.
Also,
actually
fucking,
replaying
it's just
that now.
the author just completely gets it wrong. The sheer force of the lightning bolt throwing her body to the ground. That's
That's
not
how that works.
what caused
Mm,
people being launched backwards isn't because of the electricity, it's because their muscles locking up in a specific way, causing them to propel themselves backward.
Yeah.
mhm.
Turns out getting electrocuted, not fun.
Yeah, wow, shocker. But yeah, I always
I'm
thought
not-
of myself as someone who protects women, not
Oh my
someone who would harm them.
Sir. Sir. Perish.
Women would be here, he thought. I've never been in Skyrim before. And there could be women anywhere. I always thought of someone who protects
Are
women.
you a woman?
Yeah, no, it's fucking crazy because the story goes on, and it's like, oh, giants, they're like actually super powerful, and normal people just can't fight them, and actually everyone runs at superhuman speeds and fights at superhuman speeds. It's just like, he's just escalating the power level of everything, and then I was just like, okay, whatever. And then he starts throwing a bitch fit because he finally gets the white run and gets rewarded by the Jarl for reporting the whole dragon thing with some money. And so he takes that money and he goes to the blacksmith and he buys some custom armor from the blacksmith, and he's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it takes a whole week for my custom armor to be smithed."
Are you
That's
sure
kind,
this
that's
isn't?
kind of impressive, though.
Yeah.
Like, damn,
Oh,
dude,
it can be-
only a week for customizized armor?
Well,
But
I mean,
also
I guess
keep
it
in
depends
mind,
what-
This isn't like
How custom are we talking here?
custom size fitted,
fitted.
steel plate
Okay, I mean that's
with
yeah.
chainmail and all the you know.
I mean,
And-
depending on what the guy had around,
A
a
week-
week is quite reasonable.
Yeah,
a week
I
is
know
good
that's
if it's
the
an
point.
entire set of armor, I'd think.
Yeah, no, it's an entire set of armor. But on top of that, not only is it an entire set of armor, it's by the only blacksmith in the town
Mm.
during
Well,
a
no, there's
war.
usually
Blacksmiths in
things do.
Whiterun.
Yeah, but you can't. One does not simply commission Yorland Greymane.
No.
Not without probably getting your ass kicked.
Yeah.
Minute up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might even be like, hey, you know what? You survived. All right, I'll make you a gauntlet.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, you can I'll tell you what. For every tooth that I don't knock out of your mouth, that's another piece of armor.
Every teeth I don't knock out of your mouth.
Oh, you see good teeth in it.
I'll pay
Oh,
you
you
Wow.
don't
teeth.
get small teeth
Well, I
for the
don't know.
boss.
Not a
did it?
scholar.
What have I got? No teeth.
For every rib I don't shatter.
Fair enough.
But
I take the
yeah,
others?
no, it was just like, okay, buddy, you know, you can complain about the whole week it'll take to get your custom armor and weapon. Okay. But
Okay, are you sure he's not mocking a certain group of people with
No.
this story?
No, he's
no,
completely serious about this.
no,
That sort of
there's
writing.
no way.
Completely tongue
That
in
sort of writing's
cheek.
completely serious.
No, he opened the author's note when you open the story is, this is my attempt at a realistic self-insert into
Oh my-
Skyrim, because I've helped many people write their own self-insert into Skyrim, and it's got me thinking, you know, what would it be like if I inserted my real self into Skyrim? You know, my real self with all of my issues. It's like, okay, I mean, that's fair and cool. Like, you know, fine. Yeah, I am also tired of everyone being like, this is a self-insert of me into X world. Also, I have no negative qualities, and I'm a great person, and people like me. It's like, I'm sure they do. That's why you're writing fan fiction.
I mean,
Damn,
look.
Sneaky.
if I was putting the real me into a self-insert, you would get a somewhat unmotivated person whose biggest problem is that he's antisocial and too sarcastic.
Sounds accurate.
But you want to know what would really fix my motivation problem? Being in Magic Land.
Yeah, I was about to say having magic would kind of
Like
pique your
I'll
interest
be
there.
the first to tell you, I'm not the most dedicated study, but if I end up in D&D, you bet I'm gonna unlock my inner nerd, my inner college nerd, because hey man, you spent 40 hours trying to learn Fireball. Fireball.
I didn't ask
Fireball.
how big the room was. I said I cast Fireball.
Yes.
Sneaky, I didn't ask how big the room was. I said I cast Chain Lightning.
I mean, to be fair, lightning is the only element in Skyrim, if you're in there, that doesn't have resistance from a race, like, naturally.
It
Nor
also doesn't have
resist
any
fire.
weaknesses.
Chain Lightning is much more terrifying in D&D. Because it's what? 7th? Sneaky?
What? Chain lightning? No.
No,
Chain
Lightning
lightning's
is
like
way
third
higher.
level.
No, you're thinking of Lightning Bolt, dude.
Yeah,
No
chain
way.
lightning is about level 7. I'm sorry.
Well, if science says
seventh
it's level 7, there's no way it's level 7
Level
now.
7, 7th level.
He means the 7th level spell.
No! Ha 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 ha!
It's
Ha!
6. Chain Lightning is 6.
I told you, if Sign thinks it was 7th level, it's absolutely not 7th level.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not third.
Yes, you're correct. Bolt then leaps from the target to as many as 3 other targets. Each must be within 30 feet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does a nice little bit of Let's see, how much damage is that?
It's D6 per caster level. So assuming you pop it right when you get it, it's 6d6 on up to what?
No, there's no way it's 6d6. The 6th level, that's like 12.
No, it's per caster level.
Yes, and casters would get 6th level spells.
Oh, yeah, I can't think. Yeah, you're right.
They get it at 11th.
Yeah, they get it at 11th. That's it. Oh my god, my brain. Brain not work good. Yeah. So 11d6. And then what was the reflex on this one?
It's probably just 10 plus caster level. Oh, there's no reflex. You just take the damage.
No, each
There's
target
no
can attempt a
reflex?
reflex saving throw for half the damage.
Oh, okay, so it's just standard reflex saving throw.
The reflex
dexterity.
DC to have the damage of secondary bolts is 2 lower than the DC to have the damage of the primary. That's it.
In 5th
Yeah.
edition, it's just 10d8.
Yeah,
Flat.
well, I'm looking at the version that doesn't suck.
Yeah, it's true.
Also, my personal favorite part about Chain Lightning was the range. The initial range is 400 feet plus 40 feet per level.
Yeah, in the good old days.
Hey, you see that guy almost 1,000 yards away from me? I don't wanna.
I
this
still
is
think
a-
my favorite part in one of my campaigns when playing as a scout was the DM was like, yeah, they're like 1,000 feet away from you. I'm like, okay, I shoot them. Like, what do you mean you shoot them? With my bow, I shoot them. What's the range on your bow? 1,500 feet. How?
That's like one of
That's-
my personal favorites was the
Scout.
we were like 3rd, 4th level. DM had us fighting some harpies. I was running a ranger. This was 5th edition, but and the harpies tried the usual bullshit of trying to walk us off the cliff. We shook it off. We're like, aha, now we're going to kill the harpies, and the harpies started flying away. And oh no, we just hit 5th level because I saw the sharpshooter feat was like, ignore the maximum range penalty on your bow.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have a longbow. This is gonna be funny. And it's like the harpies are flying away, and I said, all right, I'm gonna keep shooting at them. What do you mean? I'm like, well, the range on the longbows like 150, 600. He's like, okay, well, they're just gonna keep dashing. It'll take them a couple turns to get out of it, but then you're at disadvantage. No, I'm not.
Average English longbowman.
that was a moment when I was playing the homebrew hunter class. Fucking in one of the campaigns with Faceless. We were attacked by demons. You know, the one thing that my class was specifically geared around fighting. And so opening shot, of course, classic with Gurman, natural 20. But one of the demons started running away, and I was just like, no, you're not. I'm going to take disadvantage on this attack. 2 natural 20s.
Sometimes the dice decide that you're going to do it.
And Faceless is just like, alright, we'll roll for damage. Max roll on all of the damage die.
Yeah. By the way,
he's just like, oh.
I just want to say, I think probably one of those disappointing things about 5th edition was how many fun spells they got rid of. Don't get me wrong, they kept some fun things in there. But like, no, but like, they got rid of shit like World Wave. for those of you who didn't play D&D when fun times were around, World Wave lets you take the Earth and basically create a tsunami out of the Earth that you get to ride over people.
Well, you see, the
Nice.
thing is that 5th edition, the creators of 5th edition are all of the people who got kicked out of the campaigns for 3.5 because
Yeah.
they didn't bother reading the rules, didn't understand the rules, and thought what someone else was doing was unfair, or were trying to be super special, and were told that that's not fun.
They were
Like, they were-
druid players.
Yeah, they were druid players. Yeah, considering how fucking strong they are in 5e.
Well, I want to be able to summon raptors. Why would you want me to be able to summon raptors? Are raptors even a thing? They are now.
Yeah.
Hang on, summoning raptors is pretty cool. Like, I'll give them that.
There's a book that has it.
I
I mean, a
understand
pretty
that.
old book.
There's plenty of things I could complain about druids. I just picked up the most recent one.
Well, the main thing with druids, and it's a bad DM problem. The main thing with druids is that a lot of their spells when dealing with animals are restricted by the animals they have seen, so they're not able to summon raptors until they've seen raptors. And what
Yeah.
this is supposed to do is it's supposed to allow the DM to restrict what the druid's gonna fucking do.
Yeah.
So they can't do the stupid elephant idea if they've never seen an elephant.
Yeah.
And what a lot of DMs don't do is read the fucking rules.
Hey, listen. I remember when I had to read out the fucking spell scroll rules when you had a
Yeah.
gremlin and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, with fucking Lupine, who was just like, yeah, I use this spell scroll. I was like, isn't that a wizard only? Well, I have
'Cause
a
I remember
wizard read
you're
it
like,
out for me.
he keeps casting this thing, and I'm like, but he can't cast that.
Yeah.
It's not on his spell list. He has a scroll. Luckily, that's not how that works.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very frustrating. But yeah, it's unfortunately all the people who don't know how to tell a good story were the ones put in control of D&D.
Sorry.
Yeah, because the ones who did went to work on Pathfinder.
Pretty much. And then they also left Pathfinder because
Well, yeah, but
anyway, let's see what Phoenix here has to say. There's one worm fandom that picked a fight with Cauldron because one of the Cauldron mods was stubborn, but she was stubborn back, leading to back and forth cringe fests. She was definitely headstrong and opinionated, but I kind of respected her more than the average Cauldron user. She was the one who recommended me the Dungeon Meshi manga. Well, I recently remembered that she had an old handle, and her only fic on it was Harry Potter from 2015. Now she has experience writing. Apparently, she ran quests on image boards where she would also draw out the story. So the writing quality isn't the usual shit you see on FN, but you might see the issue very quickly with this story. Okay. Well, let me demobile that real quick. Let's see what we got going on.
Which story is this?
Alex Clover and the Emulatory Quest. The year is 1991. Alex Clover, the author self-insert, gets a letter telling her that she's a witch and accepted to Hogwarts. But she soon discovers the truth. A different girl named Alex Clover was supposed to be the one to go. Refusing to turn back, Alex will do anything to stay. But how long can a transgender 11-year-old muggle avoid detection in Hogwarts?
I'm sorry,
Not-
what?
The
not
first
very
week
long
when she
because
can't
the
do
second
magic
they're in a
in
class
class.
that requires them to
Yeah.
do magical things, they'll be fine. Like, pick up the wand.
Like when she goes to Ollivander's, Ollivander's gonna go, there's no one for you, you're a squib, get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if he doesn't, even if you somehow, like, let's say you find some kid on the train, you punch him in the face, you steal his wand. Cool. That'll get you through the front door. Then when you go to class, and they're like, okay, cast Lumos.
Well, it's not only that; it's the fucking hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hat.
It's-
Oh, yeah, the hat.
Also, you're not able to get on the train because you're Muggle. You wouldn't be able to see.
And you won't be able to get through the platform. You'll run into the
Yep.
pillar.
You won't be able to get to the platform. You won't be able to get into Diagon Alley. You won't be able to get on the train. You won't be able to get to Hogwarts. So even if you get on the train somehow, you won't be able to get into Hogwarts because Hogwarts also has a Muggle repelling charm on it, which means Muggles literally can't see it. They could go to the exact location, and what they will see is a destroyed castle.
Well, I could see getting onto the platform if you piggybacked off of someone like.
No,
say-
you've actually got to be
no,
holding hands and be let in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold hands. Like get them to pull you in.
Okay,
But
maybe.
even then, again,
Also,
even if you get someone to pull you in through, and then pull you onto the train, and then pull you through the doors of Hogwarts.
Well,
like,
not only that, if you're an orphan girl, right? If you're an orphan girl, that means they're going to send a teacher out to help you buy your supplies, which means the teacher is going to bring you in the Diagon Alley. So that issue's solved, right? Well, no, it's not.
yeah.
Because
But they're
actually,
going to take the Ollivanders and everything.
they're going to... No, it's even worse than that, right? They're going to take you to the Leaky Cauldron. Except
Oh.
you can't see the Leaky Cauldron, so you'll keep trying to go other directions besides the cauldron whenever they try to guide you to it. So they'll grab your hand, and they'll just ignore the fact that the Muggle repelling wards seem to be working on you. So theoretically, they'll just ignore that fact, they'll drag you into the Leaky Cauldron. They'll bring you to Diagon Alley. Then they'll bring you to Ollivanders, and Ollivander will be like, bitch, you don't got fucking magic.
How dare you, Mr. Ollivander?
Yeah,
no,
got
and
Hogwarts
then the teacher would go, because at least most of the time the teachers that aren't Defense Against the Dark Arts professors don't just hold the idiot ball.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if it's Minerva or Flick or Flickwit or whatever,
Yeah.
or Snape or whoever. Like they'll be like, oh,
So
yeah,
we're just gonna. So theoretically, somehow they convince Ollivander to give them a wand anyway.
I think
so
the most
say,
egregious thing is that 150 years stuck in 150 year past Wizarding World is going to care that you're transgender or not.
yeah, they don't care about that.
Mm.
well, they would, but they wouldn't. They would care because there's a solution for it. The solution is to take this potion.
Here, you're just gonna have to take
this
this
potion or cast this spell.
What do you mean is just a potion for this?
Yeah,
Potion
like
first.
I'm pretty sure at some point you could reasonably come up with lore saying like, oh yeah, you know, this one wizard was like, damn, I'm 150 years old. I'm kind of bored. What's it like being a woman? Creates potion on how to be a woman. Boom.
For crying out loud, you literally already have something that gets you 85% of the way there with Apologies.
Exactly.
like-
Yeah.
Well, you have
apologies,
to keep taking the polyjuice though.
But my point is that it gets 85% of the way there, and they already have magic to make enchantments permanent. Like, they have the
Yeah,
ability
well,
to make
the thing with
potions near permanent.
polyjuice, as I imagine, is what I imagine is that polyjuice is intentional. Don't worry, I'll get to there, Phoenix. I imagine the cooldown on polyjuice is intentional because it's like, well, what if I just want to be someone else for an hour?
Yeah.
Like that's all, just for an hour. You know, doing some sort of prank. You know, swapping because of, you know, I want to go to the dinner, but they don't. Like, there's a whole bunch of reasons you could come up with, and it's clearly an hour because it's not a power issue, because there's the draught of living death, which is put someone into a coma permanently until they're given the antidote. Which means there's clearly no issue with making permanent potions. Clearly, the polyjuice was made specifically to only last an hour.
Yes.
Like, hey, you know what? we're gonna teach a bunch of wizard kids how to make a potion that lets them impersonate somebody. Let's make sure we give them the time limit version.
Yeah.
Like,
So, or I mean,
Although
it might
it
just be
probably-
an ingredient issue. Maybe the hour-long duration is because of some common ingredient instead of needing like the tears of a dragon who just lost their child.
Yeah, whatever. Like, the point
Permanent
is,
version needs the blood of a metamorphagus, I'm guessing, because it feels like that polyjuice is basically based off that magic that Tonks has.
Oh, you know
It-
what? That's fair. Yeah, it might be something like that. But
but
the
again,
point-
none of it
yeah.
matters because there are solutions to it. Like,
Yeah.
we have a solution to this. We know what it is. Like, I mean, hell, worst case scenario, their medical regime consists of drink polyjuice every hour.
Yeah, who knows? It's like whatever, right? I mean, that'd be very fucking expensive. But yeah, it's whatever. It's something. Like there is ways to lure an explanation in. But anyway, so they get the wand from Ollivanders somehow. All right, fine. And they, then they get all the other, magical stuff that requires magic to work, and they somehow, talk the teacher into making it all work for them, so they don't reveal themselves. Okay, fine. And then they talk someone into bringing them into the train. Okay, fine. And then they get to Hogwarts finally, and then they turn around and walk away into the forest because they forgot their oven was on.
Yep.
And then so someone drags them away from the Forbidden Forest and onto the boat. And then that's how they get into Hogwarts. Except actually, they never actually said in canon that the entire castle doesn't look abandoned still. Like, as far as I'm aware, the effect doesn't go away.
It just looks like ruins. So everyone else
Yeah.
going up a tower to their fucking rooms. The Muggle, how the fuck are they floating?
Well, they wouldn't see them. That's the thing, though, right?
I was
Yeah.
about to say, assuming they perceived them.
But so it's just like, okay, somehow they get into Hogwarts. Somehow they get sorted and they don't get called out by the hat. Somehow they finally make it to the dormitory, which, let's be honest here, there's one dormitory that would cause a significant issue for them, and it's the one dormitory everyone and their mother tries to go into whenever they do a self-insert, unless they're being
Slytherin.
edgy. No, Gryffindor.
Unless they're being itchy?
Oh, Gryffindor? Oh,
yeah, well,
because
yeah,
they
if you're
can't see the
being edgy,
portrait.
you go to Slytherin.
Actually, even
no.
Ravenclaw, because the knocker's magic when it gives the riddle it speaks, so they wouldn't hear the riddle.
yeah.
No, not that they wouldn't hear the riddle. The riddle wouldn't be given to them because they're not
Yeah.
magical.
Mm.
Well, that's a different issue, but again, you can piggyback off someone for that one. No. Gryffindor would be a major issue because if you look in the Discord chat, you'll see exactly why. In Gryffindor, the female dorm, specifically the female dorm, is spelled against men. And it's not, oh, well, if I have the parts, I can get into the female dorm. No. It's spelled against polyjuiced men as well. It's spelled against your DNA.
Yeah, you think they didn't think of that when they put that spell on there? Every way a guy has of trying to disguise that he's not a guy, they have thought of and warded that door against it.
Yeah, so the second you try going up those stairs, you're gonna get exposed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
then
I'm gonna say you're gonna have some
And
issues.
even if you don't, and somehow you get into something like fucking Hufflepuff or whatever, and you get in by following others, or others let you in because you're shy.
No.
The moment it comes out that you're a muggle or something, Draco's fucking lying to his father, and his father's using that against Dumbledore and screwing you over.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
also
yeah.
gonna get fucking memory blasted immediately and sent
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
none of
Yeah.
this matters, right? None of this matters. Because the only way she would acquire the letter is if she killed the original
bird took
Alex
it.
Clover.
Or the bird and took the letter off of it.
Or the bird and took the letter off it, true. That's the
Yeah.
only way they would even get the letter in the first place. Because you know what? didn't they make a point of using slide stairs as entertainment? Yes, but if the author is saying that their 11-year-old is trans, they wouldn't be able to use the stairs.
Mm.
So, the first time, but okay, you're just using the stairs. Well, also keep in mind it does play an alarm as well.
Yeah.
So it's not one of those things that people will excuse for too long. If you keep trying to get up the stairs to the girls' dorm, they'll be like eventually, buddy, your dorm's over there.
Yeah.
But I can see it being used as a prank by someone to like go up the stairs and then the alarm plays and all the girls wake up because it's like 6 a.m. on Saturday.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, just screw with people.
They do that.
Yeah.
and it's like,
3:34 a.m. on a Sunday when the sprinklers have turned on.
Yeah. But the core problem is this is assuming that somehow the letter ends up in their hands, which is incredibly impractical because the owl wouldn't give them the letter. It wouldn't be like, oh, you're a person named Alex Clover. Here's your letter. No, they magically find the person the letter is addressed to. So unless you're sleeping in the same room as an Alex Clover, also keep in mind, Alex Clover isn't their real name because they're trans.
Mm.
They changed their name to that in their head.
Yep.
So that letter wouldn't even be addressed to you in the first place. But anyway,
That's
I'm
not
saying,
how much you
even
play.
if we ignore all of those things, let's not forget, by the way, they literally can make magic mail that goes and fucking screams at. They can make the email scream at you.
yes. But
I wish.
the bird will only let the person the mail is for take the
Take
mail.
letter.
So they
No, unless you
wouldn't
kill the
let
bird.
this random fucking orphan just take the letter because they're like, oh, this letter's for Alex Clover? I'm an Alex Clover. The bird would be like, bitch, no, you ain't.
Mhm.
That bird will fucking fight you.
Bitch, no, you.
Yeah, so the only way for them to get this letter would be if they killed the owl with the letter.
They either kill the owl or they find it on Alex Clover and steal it from Alex Clover. Like, those
Yeah.
are
It's
the options.
magic letter, so I mean, actually,
No,
Vernon
No,
could see
no,
it.
no.
No,
you can
no,
take the
they
letter
were able
away.
to see it.
Like,
Yeah, no, the parents
wasn't
were
able
able
to
to
see it
see
in
it.
much.
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah, that's fine.
the Vernons could easily see, and remember, the Vernons succeeded
Vernons?
in hiding what? 5
Hundreds,
letters or
thousands,
something?
a lot.
Yes, several.
Like they hid like 4 or 5 until finally the wizarding world chose the nuclear spam option.
Because they're just like,
Put
yeah,
the
no, just say
hands
it's
up,
not
kid.
away
You're
from us.
about to lose some important bits. I mean, it's like I'm sorry, and we're gonna be very unpolitical here, but this is an incredibly outlandish paragraph.
I would say the issue here here's the thing. None of this has anything to do with your desire to make your character trans. It literally doesn't. It's
Yeah.
that you're making them a muggle. Like, literally, I'm sure that in Harry Potter land, like, trans wizards are not going to be anything new. Like, I can easily imagine the super shy 11-year-old puts on the witch's robe, which is in basically no way different from the
A wizard's.
wizard robe, and heads towards the girls' dorm. The alarm goes off, and they keep trying to go up, and the alarm goes off, and then someone's like, "Hey, what are you trying to do?" And they're like, "Well, I think I actually identify as blah 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 blah." And they'll be like, "All right, it's an 11-year-old. The 11-year-old is probably not horny. We'll get this fixed up."
Well, I don't think they would do that. I don't think they would potion an 11-year-old. You got to keep in mind this is old-timey thought process. Old-timey thought process.
Oh no, sorry, I didn't mean potion them. I mean they'd be like, "All right, we will provisionally allow the 11-year-old to stay in the dorm. Just put them in a separate room."
I don't again. I don't think they would do that. I think they would tell them to suck shit and get into the guy's dorm. 'Cause you gotta
Remember,
keep in
though-
mind this is
Far in the
again.
past.
Yeah, you gotta. Well, yeah, this is.
Oh yeah,
this
how
is
far in
Wizards
the
stuck
past
in the
is
past.
this?
Well,
They
this is
stuck on-
1991, So to be
Yeah.
clear here, so in 91, so this is basically Harry Potter era. The wizards were described as being in like 1800s in terms of culture.
With only some things
Yeah,
being
they
more
wouldn't
modern, like the
entertain that
night bus
shit.
and the train, and even the train's not too modern. It looks like
And
an
this
old
isn't
timey
a
thing.
we wouldn't entertain trans shit. This is a we view children as property thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like yes, children are sacred and special, and we got to keep them safe and all that fun junk. But also at the same time, this is a culture that has no issues, no surprise, doesn't even blink at the idea of selling your child to another family for a marriage agreement for
Yeah.
trade purposes.
Yeah, that's
What's
true.
this
No,
kid?
this is old England, bitch. We sell our children here.
What's this? What's this kid? You're actually a girl. All right, everyone, to the factories with this one. It's defective.
No,
Yeah, effectively. But no, but it would be a case of honestly, there would be more cases of kids being transitioned by their parents than kids actually being trans. Because it's like, oh, we keep trying to have a kid, and we can't get a fucking boy, so I'm gonna pay this wizard a stupid sum of money for the girl-to-boy potion. I'm gonna feed it to my girl, we're gonna make them a boy, now they're a boy, we're gonna raise them as a boy, and they're gonna be the heir because we couldn't get a girl. Or couldn't get a boy.
Although that does make me think. I feel like the Wizarding world has like fertility problems with how little children are actually around, even if it's just after a
no,
war.
they don't. It's
They
just
don't?
that no. There's
Um,
never been there's two okay, there's three things here that are causing issues, right? First,
Well, no, I feel like the
Wizards
changing would cause
are-
fertility issues from female to male.
no, why
well,
would it?
it
It's
doesn't.
magic.
It would you? Yeah, it's
First
magic.
of all,
It wouldn't. Yeah.
it's literal magic. Second of all, there would be no point in using that if it doesn't produce someone that
Yeah,
can
exactly.
that can give viable like
Yeah, it's less literal fertility issues, as in sperm to egg, and more cultural fertility issues of, you got to keep in mind a lot of these marriages were loveless. They didn't look at their wife and be like, oh man, I just really want to do her right now because I love her so much. They would be like, all right, fuck, okay. It's
It was also a matter
91.
Of, it was
we gotta
also
get a
a
hair.
prestige
Okay.
issue.
All
If you're like, that's why one of the reasons the Weasleys were looked down on, because they had not just 7 kids, but they were spending all their money that they had basically on their kids, on feeding them and everything. So they didn't
right,
look like they had
but that's what the
prestige.
thing though was, right? Is the issue wasn't that the Weasleys had so many kids; it was that the Weasleys were poor and kept having kids.
yeah. Again, it's one of those things like again, like remember, they specifically even were like, man, a lot of these marriages are loveless and rarely produce children because they have no desire to interact with each other. Well, we can fix that.
True.
Love potions. They did fix that
but-
actually.
Yes, I
But
know.
that's my point. That's my literal point.
Yeah.
Was boy, these arranged marriages suck shit. And alcoholism is frowned upon because, drunk wizards are a problem, which
Yeah,
you know
that's
what?
true.
I will give Rowling credit for establishing a culture that is against wizards doing magic inebriated, because they're like, okay, listen, you can bring the walls to life and you can cast the spell that kills people. Put the wand down before you drink the vodka.
Yeah. Don't cast and drink, everyone.
Yeah, exactly, right. But and they're like, boy, we have all
What
these
if I'm
arranged
more
marriages.
accurate when I drink? What if I cast
We
more
have all
accurately
these
when I
arranged
drink?
marriages. Trying to keep bloodlines pure or whatever.
Drink.
Right, but it's like, oh, we have all these bloodlines because we have all these problems because we're trying to keep bloodlines pure or whatever. So yeah, sure, fine. This ends up in loveless marriages. We can fix this. It's magic. Like again, here's the thing. I think Sneaky is entirely correct in that there's 100% going to be a spell that fixes any gender qualms or concerns you may
Dysphoria
have,
or anything like that.
because
Yeah.
again, these are the people that canonically Rowling said that they don't care about toilet paper because they just banished their shit.
Yeah.
They would
It's
just take a shit and then go magic it away. Like,
they also live really long. That's the other thing, right? Is why they wouldn't have a lot of kids. Is that it's proven that in cultures where the lifespan is higher, there's seen as a less pressing need to have children.
yeah.
Because you don't need to replace people as quickly. It's
Yeah.
it's a kind of self-regulating thing, sort of a little bit. It's not great because we weren't exactly evolutionarily prepared to live long. There's a lot of things that would fucking kill us. But it is there. But yeah, on top of all of that, you have loveless marriages, you have longer lifespans, you have more whimsy going on. You have access to magic as well, so I'm sure there's some sort of anti-impregnation charm that you can cast super easily. And if the family just wants to have 2 kids, heir and a spare, or wants to have at least 1 son, because I think the whole reason as to why the Weasleys kept having kids is at some point Molly said that she wanted at least 1 daughter or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
And
So it
so
was all
that's
because
why they
of
kept
Ginny.
having. Yeah. Like, so there's a lot of reasons as to why there might not be a lot of kids around. Also, at the same time, it's a economic thing of like it's a mixed thing because because you can duplicate food. You can't create food, but you can duplicate it, and the duplicate actually works fine. So food's
I
really
would
not
say
a high cost.
that's something
Yeah.
I always that's something I never understood the issue of. Like, how are the Weasleys poor spending all their money on their kid when, oh, we spend so much money on food? How? Make 1 peanut butter sandwich and you can now have a dozen peanut butter sandwiches. Hell, you could cook a turkey every day and be like, cool, magic.
Well,
Everybody gets a turkey.
no, I think actually what the issue is that there's no industrialization in the wizarding world. And so when they have to get clothes, they have to get hand-sewn clothes. Sure, the hand is
Tailors,
magical,
yeah.
but this is probably a spell that's been kept in the seamstress family, or, personally, that is a personal spell that the seamstress personally created for, sewing. And they
Yeah.
don't release that. Like, sure, they'll release the patch charm that allows you to patch the clothes, but it doesn't repair the clothes, because there's also the repair charm, but that only works as long as there's material to repair with. And so if like an actual hole just gets torn in the dress, you can only repair that so many times before the dress gets too thin because it's using material from other parts of the dress. It doesn't magically create the material.
Yeah.
So it's a case of olden times thought process of, I'm a blacksmith. I have unlocked the secret to Damascus steel. Do I share this with anyone? Fuck no.
Fuck.
Now I'm the only blacksmith that knows how to create Damascus steel, which means I get to set the prices for everything. And so that's kind of how it went back then. And I don't blame them for that either. But knowledge was guarded, and we obviously see knowledge being guarded in canon, so we have this as a supporting proof in that family magics existed. And not the fanon family magics of like, oh, super powerful spells, but magics that the family created and kept inside the family and didn't tell anyone else about.
Yeah.
Like for instance, Harry's grandfather apparently created Slick Easy that
Yes.
Hermione used in the 4th fucking film and book.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's a case of limited. The food might not cost too much, but clothes might. But more wands might. New equipment
Books
for the
might.
kids might. Books might. Because you gotta keep in mind, some of those books were going for like a gold coin each, which is insane.
Lockharts, yeah. They were like multiple galleons for the entire set.
Yeah, and like fucking Arthur is only paid like 42 gold coins a year or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So proportionally, the amount of time it takes to create things like clothes, books, um, wands, because each wand was like 7 gold. If you have 7 kids, that's an entire year's salary just on wands.
Yeah.
Mm.
Books of every year, and not all of the books can get reused for the next year because some of them get worn out, some of them get destroyed, new teachers come in. Now,
Yeah.
admittedly, most of the teachers don't, and you can reuse the book mostly. Um, but the issue still remains that some of the books need to be replaced every year, and they're probably already buying secondhand books, which means they're already falling
Yeah.
apart. Which it's stacking costs, and Asmongold actually brought up a very good point about this. When I was watching a video about the dollar store shit. At the dollar store, it costs $3 for 15 dryer sheets. But if you go to a normal supermarket for $10, you can buy 150 dryer sheets. But the problem is that there are people out there that don't have the extra $7 to spend at that moment for the better costing product.
Yeah.
And so they have to buy the 15 dryer
dollar-
sheets at
For
the dollar
from
store.
the dollar store.
Yeah. And so you get into cases of, because you're poor, you need to buy lower quality, worse proposition products. And then because you do that, you have to buy them more often, which means you lose more money in the long term, replacing all of the stuff you couldn't buy quality for in the short term.
Yeah, the Sam Vine's Boots theory of economics.
Yeah. Is that what it's called? Cool. Didn't know that.
To make a very, very long story short, in one of the Discworld books, there's a guy who is a guard captain. His name is Samuel Vimes, and he has to buy boots with cheap cardboard soles, and he wears those boots for so long, and he goes so long without replacing the soles that the joke is that he knows where he is in the city by the feel of the cobblestones.
Mm.
And he then goes on a little bit of a musing about how a shitty pair of boots that I can go and get tomorrow costs $5. A
Right.
great pair of boots that will last me for the next 15 years costs $30. But I'm going to have to replace my shitty boots every 3 years.
Right.
So I will have lost more money on shitty boots than I would have if I had ever bought the good boots. But I get paid $5 a year. So I
Right.
will never afford good boots.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
basically
that's the
about
thing, yeah.
it's basically about the way that poverty keeps you poor. In some instances, right? Poverty literally keeps you poor.
Yeah. No, it's certainly there's cases where it's and it's not always because the Dollar General is trying to shortchange you. Because it's you got to keep in mind the same amount of space being taken up to ship the 15 dryer sheets could have shipped 150. So they have to
Yeah.
spend the same amount of resources shipping a lower volume product to you.
Yeah. It's one of those, like it's
Yeah, I mean, you're describing opportunity costs there, and
Yeah.
it's also sort of a gradient. I wish I remembered this. There's an actual scientific name for it, but it crops up in particular in developing economies. Think like um the wealthier parts of Brazil that aren't full on,
Favela. Yeah.
like, yeah, second world, developing world.
Yeah.
Um um there was an African gentleman who actually discussed this at length in a few speeches back at my old university,
Mhm.
just his home country. what
Right.
Nigeria, but I don't know why I want to say. God bless you. I don't know why I
Thank
want
you.
to say Nigeria. Basically, what it happens is you have a massive disconnect either from your economic mean and real economics for a particular group of people or a particular area, say very blighted inner cities, inner city regions.
Right.
So you have people who are essentially caught in a trap because to move out of the area where they are poor but can survive requires more money than they can accrue because they do not have the capacity to provide financial value that allows them to jump that gradient. The middle
Right.
income trap is part of that,
Yeah.
but it's not the whole thing. That's like one small part of it. No, that is a real world economic problem and a real world economic theory that has very smart people who are much smarter than I spending decades of their lives investigating. And it's actually really cool in the abstract and really sad in real life when you see it.
Well, I mean, that's honestly, like, it sounds dumb to say this, but for real, anybody who hasn't read like the Discworld series, you can pretty much just pick any Discworld book by Terry Pratchett. They're all fantastic. I highly recommend the Guard books because they have Samuel Vine. Like, Pratchett was very much a brilliant man ahead of his time with tackling topics that people either didn't want to talk about or wouldn't like admit was a
Acknowledge.
problem. Like, right? Like, because you got to remember, this was a dude who was a relatively well-to-do author. His contributions for literacy were so great that he was knighted by the British Crown. And yeah, he covered stuff that people didn't want to, like a British dude in when was the first Discworld book?
Probably at a period of time that's gonna make Sign cringe in age.
80. Yeah, the very first one was in 83, right? Like,
Oh wow, that's a whole year before I was born.
yeah. But yeah, right. He was covering in the 1980s. He was covering the fact that, you know what? Not everybody who's poor is a lazy sack of shit.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mm.
But anyway, to get back on topic of the whole
Yes.
thingamajob, yeah, children are viewed as property effectively in that culture, and so it wouldn't be a case of, oh, this kid is needs help and needs a potion to assist them to fit their mental image or whatever. It would be more of a, if they were gonna potion the kid, it would be a potion of unfucking mentally. But of course, if that such potion existed, we wouldn't have half the problems we do with wizards. So clearly, that potion doesn't exist. Um,
Potion of removed childhood trauma.
yeah, would sell
Oh,
like
that's called
hotcakes.
Oh, that's called Obliviate.
Yeah,
No, that's not how
Oh.
that works. Sneaky. Potion of
or-
removed dad issues. Potion
Yeah.
of removed mom issues.
yeah. But anyway, so
Oh.
point being is that if anything, if they heard this kid was having mental issues with that, they would just be like, all right, well, when you're 18 or an adult, whatever the fuck they consider an adult in a
I mean, technically, you're
species that
considered an
effectively.
adult the second you can pass the owls.
That's
right?
true. You're right. Yeah.
And I mean, like, if someone's like crazy dedicated, can't you like start taking owls like when you're in like the 4th year or whatever? Like,
you take owls actually in your 4th or 5th year, but yeah, no,
5th year.
I think the owls are specifically designed that you have to cast specific spells that you really only can do at a certain age anyway, because of the whole age that it's like it basically unconfirmed canon where they basically had age mixed with magical power or ability because like they clearly showed the adults not having issues casting spells that the kids clearly got tired from casting. So it's again also the whole getting tired from casting thing is a fucking mixed bag and a half because sometimes Rowling would remember that people apparently get tired when casting spells, and sometimes she would forget.
Yeah.
So it's it's maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't happen. Who
discussing that,
knows?
Orpheus back in the day had a really good
Or
point.
please never post what you've posted again.
Okay, now I kind of want to see what just got posted.
Spy Kids is now 23 years old and is the national.
Yes, I see. Age.
No, Orpheus pointed out back in the day that the wizards live in such a nonsensical and random world that their standards of what mental health looks like probably just don't even compute.
Yeah, just take a potion for it is usually the answer.
Like the pepper
Use
up
a
potion.
cheering charm.
Yeah,
Having
literally,
sleeping
that
issues,
and the pepper
take a
up
potion for it. Having
Yeah.
issues staying awake, take a potion for it. Feeling bad, take a potion for it. Nutrition issues, take a potion for it.
Yeah.
Bones grew wrong, take a potion for it. Okay.
Just make sure you
Damage
remove
your
those
bones
ones.
and take a potion for it.
Well, again, yeah, the list of things that the wizards can change and the list of things that wizards can fix versus the things that they can't fix is also so utterly nonsensical. You have horrible childhood trauma, we can't fix that. But you're sad, we can fix that. Like we have the potion equivalent of uppers and downers for your ADHD and all that. Like we have all of that. We can fix all of that. But
though apparently,
like,
to be fair, though there is apparently what's the there's some medical term for basically when you take a medicine for a very long time, it starts to build up in your system and cause side effects that normally wouldn't cause.
Yeah, because there's enough of the chemical now in your body.
Yeah, but like we know that doesn't happen. Like,
no, we do know it happens. There's specifically in the story, you can't take too many pepper up potions in a row or too many sleeping potions in a row because it causes problems with you, permanently.
But there are also charms that do similar things, like the cheering charm.
Yes, and we
So
never
you
hear
can-
anything about that having issues with permanency or side effects.
No.
And I can only assume that's specifically because potions are ingredients and magic is magic.
So
Yeah,
does that
that's
just
what I was
mean
thinking.
the cheering charm cures depression, or at least perfectly treats symptoms?
yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if I can't give you the pepper up potion anymore. Just slap yourself with a cheering charm in the morning.
Yeah,
Or if
cheering
you
charm
can't,
literally prevents you from being sad temporarily. Like you literally cannot be sad. So, you know.
But yeah, like I said, it's just the list of things that you can, like, the list of things that the magic can and cannot fix just don't make any sense at all. Like,
Yeah, I mean, if you took a realistic observation of biology, it doesn't make sense. But if you take a symbolic or more mysticism focus on biology, it
Yeah.
does make more sense. Because
You
there's
know,
not.
I don't really like
Hmm?
if they can do all that. Do you think like fixing someone's eyes like Harry is just like, well, we're gonna have to pluck your eyes out, but don't worry, you'll be unconscious, and then we'll just regrow perfect eyes for you.
Yeah,
I mean, it really depends, right? So, like, how does the body know how to grow a bone if it's been completely vanished?
yeah. Well,
How does the body regrow a bone if it's been completely vanished? Because the ligaments would no longer be attached to the bone that does grow, but they obviously are. So there is a very symbolic nature to the Skelligro potion. Because
Also, the thing with eyes. The thing with eyes is, all right, say you removed his bad eyes, quote unquote, and grew new ones. Well, if the problem was his skull shape, which is what you get with nearsightedness, I think, your skull pressing on your eyes and screwing with them, then he's pretty much just screwed anyway. That's
no, because they can
doing
cast the
anything with
bone.
the eyes
They
isn't gonna
can
fix
give them
that.
the bone fixing thing. Like,
You'd have to remove his skull.
Yep.
they
which,
can
I
do that
mean,
though.
I don't
They
see.
have
That
brains in
sounds
that.
that sounds horrible.
Oh
No,
yeah,
it's not.
absolutely
It's
horrible.
wonderful.
utterly horrible. Doesn't mean they can't do it and that they won't do
Yeah.
it.
Also,
Yeah,
to be clear,
there's
horrible,
literally
sure,
like
but they give you the
thousands of
potion that
brains in a
knocks
vat.
you out, and then they use magic to just remove the bones.
No, actually, I don't believe they can use the potion to knock you
Potion.
out.
Because they might
Or
mess up with
spells.
the original.
Yeah, I think they actually specifically say, I wish we could give you something for the pain, Harry, but it messes with the Skelegro potion. Yeah.
Okay. So they can't. So you're going to get the feeling of your skull going away. But you know what? I'm going to say, as someone who has literal brain damage, I will suffer through.
What's a little more?
I will endure the pain of my skull being banished as long as they can promise me that they can fix my brain damage, which will fix my eyes, and then put my skull back.
Holy shit! They
Yeah,
think
that
you're
sounds
some
terrifying.
No.
Yeah,
Some kinds of PTSD are like brought up literally this localized clusters of brain damage. If they can
Yes.
just like regenerate those tissues, they can literally,
As far as we're
anti-PTSD
aware,
spell.
regenerating brain tissue is not something they can do, and it's not something they've ever mentioned about being able to do. Yeah, a lot of the mental stuff, they don't really show a lot of effort being done when it comes to that. Like, gotta keep in mind that they specifically have kept Neville's parents in the mental health psych ward permanently because they had so much brain damage from the pain curse.
Cruciatus.
And that they weren't able to fix it. So they are able to fix a limited amount of nerve damage and possibly brain damage, but if it reaches a certain level or becomes a certain level of permanent, then I apparently not. And what that level of permanency is, they never really, established.
It remains nebulous.
And we don't know if those same rules apply to non-magical issues, right? Like PTSD caused by just seeing something horrendous. So it's a very mixed bag on trying to define the nebulous shit. But back to the point of the whole fucking thing that brought this up is that the author goes on to say that they're a trans 11-year-old, which just okay. There's a lot of things I take issue with for that have nothing to do with the politics. But
I think that can be set aside if the child is apparently in a traumatic situation, dead parents and such.
Well, no, they were trans before that.
Oh, I skimmed, saw what I was.
That's why I said this paragraph I have a lot of issues with. Alex Clover, you see, was an ordinary 11-year-old girl. She just had the bad luck of being born as a boy. Not truly a boy, but everyone who looked at her saw a boy, and so a boy was all they saw. Well, yeah, so you see, as a creature that relies heavily on sight, especially being able to see the other person's sight, like, we are the only species that specifically is capable of calculating where someone else is looking when we're looking at them. Sight is fucking huge for us.
You know what? I don't think they would have gender dysmorphia as a problem because that's fundamentally a hormonal imbalance.
Yes.
That's literally just one potion and gender dysmorphia is cured.
Yeah.
Well,
we're a bit late on that. We brought that up earlier.
Yeah, we brought up
the
thing,
fact
yeah.
that they have.
There's two directions to go with it. Yeah, there's a couple ways to go about it. But the other thing is this is a established science. This is established science. I am quoting official science endorsed by scientists here and medical doctors. Studies were done. It's established science. You can't question it. Those are the rules on Twitch and YouTube. I'm just saying those are the rules. This is established science. You can't question it. Children under the age of 19 have a 85% desistance rate when it comes to feeling trans. What this means is that by the time a child reaches the age of 19, 85% of the kids that say they're trans don't feel trans anymore.
Actually, I wonder if that's a socialization of issues common during increased hormone levels.
It's a lot of things.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's
We're not-
hormonal.
we're
It's
not going into it.
social.
Sorry, Atin.
Yeah, it's a lot of
Um,
things. The study covered a lot of topics and how it could happen in many different ways, and they made sure to use a number of people for it. It's established science. I'm quoting the established science on
Yeah, but like
this.
we said,
So
as far as wizards are concerned, it's irrelevant because they'd have 100 different ways to fix it.
they
any
would
one
have
of
a
which-
bunch of different approaches for it, and they wouldn't see the same political angles. But again, so anyway, this like I said, there's besides the political stuff, there's a lot of things wrong with this paragraph, and we're about to get to it. But she was pretty sure she was a girl when she looked in the mirror. Her mother and father tried to understand her and to help the child they loved. So much so, they made an appointment with people who were supposed to help and moved to England in 1991 to consult with experts to transition her.
In the 1900s?
Yes.
Yes.
This stuff didn't exist in England until, like, 2016.
Don't worry about that.
Because again, England imported it from America. But anyway, her hopes seemed to die with them when they died. No family would step forward to claim her. I guess she's talking about her family back in the States that probably don't want to deal with some kid that's over in Britain now.
Yeah.
And who's trans, where it would not be.
I mean, it doesn't
socially
really
accepted.
matter. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, yeah, I have all that,
It's
but it's
about,
like, it doesn't...
hey man, do you want to take this kid in England?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
what-
more about, do you want to take this kid in England that belonged to your brother? And it's like, not really.
I've already
I'm good.
listen. I'm living the American dream. I've already got 2.5 children of my own. I don't need to move it to 3.5.
Yeah, we can't move to 3.5 children.
That would break the. My house is designed for me, my wife, my alcoholism, and my 2.5 children. Damn it!
I would have to get an extra 0.75 dog.
Mm.
Zim.
I would have to expand the picket fence by 15 feet, and that means I have to deal with Bob from the Homeowners Association, and that's not fucking happening.
True. But anyway, so no family stepped forward to claim her. Her parents left her some money when they'd gone.
She'd be in an orphanage though.
Yeah. But she was told she wasn't old enough to have it yet. That's not a crime.
That's normal. Okay, assuming the parents actually left the child money, then whoever the executor of the estate is would be responsible for putting that money, either actively caring for the money or ensuring that it's in a trust that becomes accessible when the child reaches their majority. So, somewhere
Yeah.
between 16 and 18 in England.
So that's not an issue at all either, yeah.
Now, of course,
That's another
people
thing, though, that the
mismanage that
executor of
money.
estate-
People mismanage that money all the time, but that is in fact something that you can sue for.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not you'll actually get any money out of that is a different question. But
Yeah. It left, but she wasn't old enough to have it yet, so the orphanage Alex Clover had been sent to be cared for until the day she could leave. But she didn't think she would ever make it that far, as the older she got, the more like a boy she seemed to look, and the harder it was not to tell anyone that she was really a girl and to stay strong. I'm not strong, she thought, crying. I'm not strong. Yeah, so anyway, it's just... my main issue with this narrative is it's both from the perspective of the writer, who is clearly hyper political in their writing, but also it's supposed to be from this mystical point of view of this 11-year-old trans
right.
girl,
Because she doesn't
which
sound like a kid.
doesn't sound like a kid at all, except for all of the parts where they don't understand how any of this works. Which, again, if it was from specifically the point of view of the child, I would be like, oh yeah, I can totally understand why an 11-year-old wouldn't understand what a trust fund is or how that works. But the narrative is split between being a child and being some 20-some-year-old author who is politically writing this for political reasons. So I can't give the child narrator the excuse that they're a child, because the narration in some parts is clearly not from a child. And so it becomes this weird mash of childlike explanation mixed with very heavy political topics that wouldn't even be in the cultural consciousness for another 17 years. So
I think this is purely me throwing out my personal opinion here.
sure.
I don't know if that's allowed.
About the story, I'm not about to say something that's going to
I
get
don't think
this.
that's allowed.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, unlike Kaz, we can tend to trust Alvor.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Unless he's
The
drunk.
author-
Unless he's drunk.
Unless I'm drunk. I'm not actually. I have a cup of coffee and a Christmas mug. It's very warm.
It's
Oh,
even
nice.
worse than I thought.
Irish coffee, gotcha.
Anyway,
What
go ahead.
percent of that
Yeah.
coffee is vodka?
I think the author was a little stuck, that they wanted to do both first person and third person omniscient, and we got a really weird third person limited point of view
Yeah.
instead.
Yes. Yep.
Um,
That's the feeling I get from it as well. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. That
Gotcha.
still sucks.
No,
Well, I mean that's the
I would
issue.
say-
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's the issue when you try and mash political leanings or cultural leanings, or just generally when you try writing your personal authorial understandings on a character that's not supposed to know that information.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very
yeah.
easy to want to do that, and I will say writing first person for me personally is a struggle. But I have found a great deal of joy in being able to write characters that are simply wrong,
Yeah.
not for malicious reasons, but simply because they are giving a limited opinion, with the inherent flaws of only having part of an understanding. That to me is
the alternative is them having an alternative understanding where they still get to the correct answer, which has been very fun to write when it comes to Undying Scarab, because Taylor and Tanya both have incorrect information that, because of their situations, because this is also applies to what we're going to be doing in Hell Came With Her, the Tanya Kanmasu story. They both have incorrect information sets that they arrive at the air quotes correct answer in terms of character action because of how they interpreted the incorrect information. Basically, instead of doing 2 + 2 to get 4, they did 6 - 2, still got 4. So ultimately, in the end, they got the correct answer, but they were just doing the math completely weird.
Yeah.
It's just bass backwards.
Yeah.
And that's something I've actually really struggled with. Just on a personal note, as an author, I took the feedback that, well, why did your character get X incorrect? The point, because for me, it was an issue of, well, am I confusing the readers? Am I making it too difficult for them? Would I enjoy this if an author I was reading used it? And I realized, yes, I would enjoy it if they did it well. I did not think I did that sort of thing well, so I avoided practicing it. I mean, I never got better at it. And now I'm trying to work on that.
Yeah,
I
that
would
is
say
the
to this
other
all.
thing. Is that sort of thing the third person or first person non-omnipotent narrative can really be ruined by someone doing it poorly. If they don't make it clear to the audience that what the character is thinking is the character's thoughts and understanding of the world, and not some sort of DM railroading where they're telling you the answer. No, this is the answer. Stop rolling. This is the answer. Yes, it's correct. Stop asking me. Can we move on?
Yeah, well, I would say that's one of those things. There comes a point when you, as the DM, have to move the story along, and there's a point when you and the author need to move the story along. But
yeah, and it's very easy to, once you know how, it's very easy to make it clear to the audience if the answer the character is getting to is the character's interpretation of the correct answer or the actual correct answer. You can use things like other people's reactions to them getting to that answer as a gauge on if what they just did was completely batshit insane or totally normal.
yeah,
Because you can have the character be like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Claps hands, does a funny little dance, clothing appears in front of them magically. And then you can have the rest of the characters be like, what the actual fuck just happened? To make it clear to the audience that no, the entire internal monologue the character just had is not
Wrong.
correct.
Absolutely fucking wrong.
So I will say, having read further on into the story, and I will say this very affirmatively, the idea itself of a Muggle child going to Hogwarts just flat out doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's just too many things that are
We brought,
biologically.
yeah, we
shaping
brought
different.
that up as well.
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the
we
ways
went
that
we went
doesn't
through the
work.
whole gauntlet. It's just another classic case when it comes to fan fiction of the author trying to do too many things at the same time. It's not just the character being trans. Also, they're a Muggle. Also, it's not the right letter. Also, it wasn't for them. Also, it's just like, okay, gee, like you could come up with ideas for one of these. Like you could make entire stories based off of one of these. Oh, they got the wrong letter, but they still made it into Hogwarts because they were still magical anyway. We're gonna write a story based off that idea. They weren't magical at all. They got caught up in someone else. Like they were walking around lost one day near the leaky cauldron because they lost their mom or something, right? They let go of their mom's hand when they were out shopping. And so they're wandering around lost outside the leaky cauldron. And some magical is like, ah, yes, clearly this is just a child trying to figure out if this is the right building for them to go into, so I will lead them inside. And then through a series of an incredibly unlikely events, managed to end up going to
In
Hogwarts
Diagon Alley or
nearly.
something like that.
Yeah, where it's like you can literally do a series of unfortunate events style, incredibly unlikely happenstances collide that end up sending this kid to school. And the whole point of the story is these incredibly unlikely happenstances occurring simultaneously. What? An aurora borealis localized to your specific kitchen? Can I see it?
Fish. No.
No.
And specifically that, you can make a story out of just that idea alone. You can make a story out of the character being trans alone. You can make a story out of the character, having X, Y, or Z issue alone. Trying to stack all of these different ideas on top of each other sounds to most bad authors that it's going to be it makes for a better story because there's more plot going on. But in reality, you can only have one main thread. Like, it's the same reason why Aragon, the books, couldn't pay much attention to Murtaugh's story. They couldn't pay much attention to the fact that the dragons were basically going extinct. They couldn't pay much attention to the romance and the issues with the romance between Aragon and Arya, right? Like those are all stories in their own right, effectively. And the author acknowledged that if they were going to get the story done, they wouldn't be able to just sit there and tell them all. They had to pick the main plot thread to tell, and that was the fight with Galbatorix. They could mention the rest of them, they could have them being motivations for the rest of the characters, but they can't sit there and try and tell every single story in the world. You have to pick and choose what gets screen time and what doesn't. And there's plenty of issues that can be side stories, like, this character was blessed by Aragon, but because Aragon didn't know how to make the blessing correct, he instead blessed the character to always ensure good luck to everyone around them by taking literal action to do so. And so the character was cursed to always be intelligent and skilled enough to help the people around them be lucky. And Aragon had to confront this later on. But because this wasn't the fucking story about their issue, the author was like, okay, look, Aragon acknowledges the problem. He says we'll work on fixing it. But then we don't really talk about it again because it can't be the main story. It can't take over screen time because the story is about the hero's journey and the fight for Galbatorix.
Yep. And if you start side questing in the middle of that, you completely break your pacing and you ruin it.
Well, it's not just
Though
that. You also break the power scaling because this is actually a problem he directly had in the story, and it's why he ended up learning that he needed to drop all of these side questing plot threads. The problem was every time he came up with a side quest and had his character start going on them, the problem soon became is, why is this a problem? Oh, well, Galbatorix obviously is at fault. Oh, so Galbatorix now also has this power? Oh, he also has this power now? Oh, he also has this power now? And he's able to affect this now? And he can do stuff with this, and he has the army doing this as well. And it could be great for world building, but if your plot is about your character going to kill this guy, well, now your hero has to be fucking 10 levels higher than what he currently is, but the side quest only gives 100 XP.
I would say to the author of the fic we are discussing right now, to apologize for my digression, pick one major plot thread, decide what tints you're going to use here, or what perspective you're going to use here, and then it's okay if you want to segregate narration from story. But if you're going to include dedicated narration, have a little bit of narration at the very beginning, maybe bold it or put a line between that and the main story, and then very carefully stick to your perspective and story.
Yeah, the hopping about shit is what ruins a lot of authors.
It confused me, and I don't often get very confused. Slightly in the third chapter. I just had to reread it once and I was fine. But having finished it, I think this is a definite muddling. For example, the stuff about the conspiracy and there's a female witch who's got the power of a freaking atom bomb.
So not... they just kept on adding. Okay, so yeah, they did exactly what I said that you shouldn't do is keep on adding shit.
Yeah. And I don't know if the girl's supposed to be crazy or whatnot, but it's basically purely original content, vaguely set in the Harry Potter world. Also, there is no way in heck that Sprout would start chewing out a Muggle-born orphan for saying the words abracadabra. Sprout is not a stupid person, and yes, the killing curse is literally one of the unforgivables. But she would know that Muggle-borns have no physically possible way to know that. Her response would be, "Hey, sweetie, never use those words. That's sounds a lot like one of the spells that's a very bad no-no spell because the kid's 11, you know?
Yeah.
They've
She's not going to
probably
start.
gone through that like once a year, every year with every Muggle-born.
Oh yeah, I
infant.
mean, it's like
Mm.
you could probably even include in the fucking narrative at that point of how tired the adults are of making sure to fucking correct the kids on why they're not allowed to say abracadabra really loudly
Mm.
and point their wand at people because
How you
They
can even make
may
it
just
so that
do an
Harry Houdini or
announcement.
someone else like that was a squib that's using magic in the Muggle world, like how they are, because they're spiteful about getting kicked out by their family.
I mean, you don't even have to
You
go
don't have to
that
go that far.
far. You could just literally
Mm.
just be like, um,
Yeah, but that's I mean, if the author
Convergence.
wanted to put more like lore into it and write just to pad out word count, like a lot of them do.
Yeah.
True, fair.
You could do something like Hermione's Guide to Being a Muggleborn or something, and then you could include a digression where she
Yeah.
explains that, Avra Kedavra, the Arabic magic words, were turned into abracadabra by, Harry Houdini and da, 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 da. And that could be part of like a 10-page essay, which can be explained in 2 paragraphs of this is why Muggleborn shouldn't say abracadabra.
Yeah.
And it would be both in character and might be amusing to read if you could make it funny throughout.
Also, it makes the reader feel like the world is bigger without actually making the world bigger.
Mhm.
And that's
I
a
mean,
key thing that for a lot of authors they need to figure out how to do is to add details in that makes the world technically bigger, but doesn't actually like cause issues down the line of like saying like, oh yeah, dragons can do X, and then it's like, well, why isn't the dragon doing X? And you're like, shit, that's right, I did say they could do that. Um, causing issues
Because
with
fuck you,
plot or
that's
two.
why.
Yeah. But it's a case of a lot of authors feel like a lot of beginner authors. I mean, hell, actually, no. I'm gonna say it. A lot of published fucking authors these days feel
Mm.
like if you're giving details, the details have to be meaningful and they have to change the world and aspects and shit like that. And it's just like it's not true. You can give people completely pointless details that just make the world feel more real. Like,
Listen.
oh, it's 1973. Oh, does that have anything to do with the plot? No, it's just 1973. Oh, cool.
But
Now
if
it feels
you want
more
to figure
real.
out if you want to figure out what it'd be like around there, you can look up what life was like in 1973 because there's
Well,
going to
it's
be a
not
lot of
even that.
references.
Well, yes, but it's not even that. It's a case of just, oh, now that I know the year that this place is this story is taking place in, the story now feels more real. It now feels
Mm.
more connected to reality. And despite what people fucking say, oh, it's fiction, anything can happen. Yes, but the enjoyment of a story is derived from your ability to care about the story. And a date is a super easy way to make people care about the story because now
Mm.
a date lends some fantasy of reality to it. Oh, it's taking place in summer. Oh, summer. Yeah,
Mm.
it does something to the fucking human brain. I'm not a psychologist. I wouldn't be able to tell you the fucking, statistics or fancy words for it. I'm sure there's plenty of fancy words for it. But it just does something to the human brain that makes the brain be like, oh, this is more important now that there's a date to it. Now that it's like basically
It's easier
established
to
in
recall.
reality.
Mm.
All right, in
It's
the
not a
time I was in the
mnemonic device,
bathroom,
but it's
how
like
many
a mnemonic.
slurs did you utter?
None
29.
actually.
Ah,
One
okay.
per minute.
I see.
Yes,
That's impressive, but you can do better.
I know. We'll try. Yeah.
One other thing, dates are very dangerous. Your readers will pay more attention to them than you.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
Note down the dates you use.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's what I'm saying though. Is dates are very important to the human brain. So important that you can easily fuck yourself over if you don't pay them proper respects.
Mm.
like the bite of 87.
Yeah.
That fucking thing.
No,
The amount of trouble that man caused for himself by writing Bite of 87.
But
The
you know,
what?
obviously, because the sheer hours of video footage created just because he put a date to the incident, it proves my point
Mm-hmm.
that dates are a massively important thing to include if you want
Yeah.
to add a cheap detail
Because if
to make
he
your
just
world
said the
feel more
bite,
real.
no one would have remembered that. They were like, the bite of what? Bite
Oh,
of
the
what?
witch bite, or the bite, the guy being bitten, the kid being bitten. Is it the other
And then all
kid
of a sudden
being
you-
bitten?
And then all of a sudden you just hear, it's the bite of 87, and everyone knows what it is.
Well, yeah, because
Yeah.
they made it a very specific, like, they made it a very specific thing with a very specific.
But see, that's
set
the thing,
of-
though, right? Like, you don't even need to be super specific. You don't need to be like the bite of June 2nd, 1987. It's the bite of 87. It's the
Yeah.
wolf attack of 87. You know, it's just because it has a year next to it, it now adds a more concreteness to the reality of the story. And that's important to telling a story, because otherwise, you know, you start ending up adding details in to try and build the world out of like, oh, these are the Goblin rebellions, and these are the Orc rebellions, and this is the House Elf rebellion, and now you gotta like fucking include all of that shit, and you gotta keep all that shit in mind, and it just gets more and more tedious the more shit you start including, and so, you know, you really gotta watch the kind of information you include. But a simple "what's today's date" doesn't harm that. I mean, of course, unless you fucking stupid and forget. But yeah.
That's why I try to keep track. I have failed.
Yeah. Or you just don't bring up dates at all and use other details
Yeah.
to ground the world. But yeah, so it just generally the author's just trying to do too much. It doesn't even have to be political. We've seen this plenty with the non-political stories where it's I'm a self-insert in this world. Also, the world's heavily AU. Also, I'm using a gamer system. Also, it's a multi-cross with 5 other series. Also, it's a fusion world. Also, another self-insert who also has a gamer system is also in the world, written by another
Jesus.
guy, and we're also going to be having PvP fights occasionally.
Hmm.
And it's just like, Jesus Christ.
But don't worry, there's no stakes because the PvP fights, you come back to life after losing.
Yeah. It's just so much extra fucking detail. You could write a story of just the world being AU, of just the world being a multi-cross, of just the world being a self-insert, of just someone getting a gamer system. That when you start stacking all of these, like, it's sort of like what's a good example to use that people
It's a
would
Jenga
understand?
tower.
Well, it's not just a Jenga tower. Because it's like there's like basically a hard limit, right? It's like your generic rogue, not roguelike. What would you call Project Zomboid?
I mean, I would say
survival?
that's pretty much a roguelike. Like,
No. It's more of like a survival game than anything else.
well, okay.
No, because
It's a
roguelike
with
implies
it's a survival game with heavy roguelike element. Like, you're supposed to die.
Well, would you
multiple
call
times.
Minecraft a roguelike?
that's true. He's got a
Minecraft-
point.
Yeah.
No.
Hardcore Minecraft depends on which version you're talking. Like,
Well, my point is it's
Okay.
not a roguelike because it's not like a one and done. You're building up and it's like, oh yeah, you have all this.
Well,
Like Don't Starve is not
Okay,
a roguelike.
no, actually-
no one say shit to me about that.
Actually, no. By the definition, it's a rogue light.
yeah, yes, light. It's a rogue light.
Because
a
rogue
roguelite survival.
a roguelike is a RPG game traditionalized by procedurally generated levels, turn-based gameplay, grid-based movement, permanent death of the player character, and no progression. So, now obviously a lot of the roguelikes of modern day deviate on the no progression part in where they let you have unlocks now, where you can bring that into your next dungeon dive, where now that you've unlocked this power-up, you now get farther in the dungeon. But that's probably its own fucking word at this point. But either way, point being is that in Project Zomboid, when you're creating a character to start the world with, right, you have to pick traits. You can only pick so many traits, however, both positive and negative. But at the end, the positive and negative traits also have to balance out. So you can't be like hyper genius, super strong, Kenyan runner, but also your negatives are like reads a little bit slow, isn't great at driving, and fumbles with your gun. Those don't balance out. So you have to pick equally balancing, or pick one really good trait. I'm a genius, but I'm slow. I'm fat. I'm bad at driving, and I fumble when building. So you have to pick a balance there. And this is the same sort of scenario when you're trying to write a story. Whether it's fan fiction or original content, the only difference between fan fiction and original content when it comes to the plot build of a story is the amount of points you get. Right? Some stuff's already hard locked. Like, if you're doing a Naruto story, you have to have chakra, just period. It's a Naruto story. If you're doing a Naruto story, you have to have ninjas in it. You just do. If you're doing a Naruto story, it has to be taking place during the timelines already established in the Naruto story. Now, you can try and move where you're taking place in, but that's going to cost you some points. Because now the audience is going to be less interested in a story in where, just like you're not interested in hearing your friend tell you, tell you how they turned off the trait limit and picked every positive trait and no negative traits and then beat Project Zomboid. It was so easy. How you're not interested when your friend tells you they basically turned God mode on and beat the game, that they don't know what everyone else is talking about, the game being hard. It was just so easy with God mode on, right, Sign?
Yeah.
You're not interested in... You're not interested in your friend telling you their story about how fun the game was when they literally couldn't lose. But it is interesting to hear your friend tell you about how they picked this slow, fat, indoors, agoraphobic loser, and they used the TV time to train up their character in carpentry, and they got enough parts in their starting home to start building tunnels to other homes and created this giant networking web of fortified homes they could move through. That sounds cool. I'm interested in your story. Please tell me more.
But Sneaky, why would I want to write a story or read a story about myself?
Sign, no one wants to read a story about you.
There you go.
But point being though, is that you have add and subtract points. If you're gonna write a Naruto story, like I said before, if you want to write the story taking place 100 years after Naruto, you're gonna find very few people invested in it, because you've just spent your entire point cost on moving it up 100 years. Because everyone knows what comes next. Everyone knows it's going to be filled with OCs. It's going to probably have some knockoff plot similar to Naruto's. Obviously, the main character is going to be you. And it's just not going to be interesting because you aren't the author of Naruto, and you're basically trying to write a completely original story taking place in Naruto without even the framework of the time period. to operate off of. And so very few, we see this so often on fanfiction.net. It's gonna, even in the Naruto section, we're just writing, and Naruto was really cool, had a big dick, and banged like 9 women in the first chapter. You're gonna have like 600 favorites.
Yeah.
A story taking 100 years in the future, you're gonna have like 6 favorites.
Yeah.
And I'm not making the case of, oh, you gotta only write what the audience likes and you can't write things that you want to write. I'm just saying, because again, if you're posting a story publicly, you're not just writing it for yourself. There is plenty of writers, plenty of artists out there who do just draw for themselves, who do just write for themselves. And they can be any skill level they want because they never post it. They don't go on DeviantArt, they don't go on Twitter, they don't go on Wattpad and post their stories and hope for positive comments and thumbs up and updates and likes and favorites and whatever, right? They're just writing for themselves, so it doesn't matter. I don't care how they write their stories. They can write whatever they want. They can write the most absurd power fantasy ever. It's why I only give shit to Sign when he tries to tell us about his absurd power fantasy, about how he turned off all of the limits in the game and gave himself every single item. That's when I start shitting on Sign. I don't care that he does it. I care that he tries to sit here and talk about it to us, to try and spin yarn about how the game isn't that hard after you've given yourself every single item and turned God mode on. It's like, I don't give a shit, Sign, what you do in your single-player game. It's a single-player game. You could write the most degenerate, terribly written story in existence that breaks the Geneva Convention somehow. And if you don't post that online, I don't give a shit. But if you go out and post that online, you do not have the right to say, I'm just doing it for myself, because you clearly aren't. You are clearly, on some level, searching for the satisfaction of other people liking what you did. Which means I get to comment on it. Which means I get to tell you about how to improve it. Which means I get to break down how to structure a story to make it interesting for other people. But a lot of authors don't get it. Because a lot of authors are trying to satisfy their power fantasies immediately in the short term. A lot of authors have their story not be based off of a plan or a theme or an inspiration like reading Harry Potter. And they want to write their own magical boy story. A lot of authors write off of daydreams. They had one cool idea for one scene in the entire story, which is fine if you then go and actually make a fucking story out of it. But if the whole point of your story is to get to the point where you can write the daydream and have everyone gawp at how cool that scene was, well, you're going to find the motivation to write more of that story to die very quickly. So unless that scene is the end of your story, well, it's going to be the end of your story whether you want it to be or not. Because if your whole motivation is to write that scene and you write that scene, and there's nothing else keeping you writing that story, well, that's just disappointing. But yeah, no, a lot of authors base their shit off daydreams, so they like to stack all the positive traits and don't take any of the negative traits. And it's why I even bothered reading that Skyrim fic from the start of the podcast that had the you know, blatantly racist, sexist, leftist being the main character for it.
Jesus.
Because they were like, oh well,
link
it's
in the
gonna.
chat.
Hmm?
Did someone drop a link in the chat for that?
Yeah, no, I can, yeah. Let me go grab it.
No, sorry for missing that. But Sneaky, one thing I think you've mentioned before, and I'm trying to find the words to put this together. You've talked a lot about having basic standards
Sure.
in fan fiction writing, and I don't even necessarily think it's that people are averse to standards. It's that people have been told you should be averse to standards, and
There is
it's a
criticism.
No,
yeah, yeah, no, no. Well, I don't remember their name.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
told us once about someone you had spent like a week helping work on their story, and then your whole week's worth of
Months.
effort got undone by
But yeah.
someone who just told them, "Well, Sneaky's an idiot for wanting you to be better."
Yeah.
And maybe I'm getting the wrong read here, but a lot of the stories that I've read that have been incredibly popular to the point where I've gotten rather jealous. There was one story the other day I was reading, it had something like 2,000 reviews, half the word count, and
Mhm.
it was and then the main character does another OP awesome thing and also is dating a Wonder Woman and also does awesome OP thing.
Oh yeah,
And
I know
it
the
was
story you're talking
enjoyable.
about.
It was cheesy, it was fun,
Yeah,
but
sure.
it was nachos.
Yes.
And I am putting in effort and I'm trying to bust my butt, not necessarily on one of my two current stories, but on the other one, to actually get a really heavily philosophical story at times,
Sure.
and it gets 70 reviews.
Yeah.
And some of those reviews are awesome, but at least half of them are TFTF or TFTC.
Yeah.
And that's nice, but it's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so I get very jealous.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, it's a very simple thing, right? This is a great example I remember seeing back in the days of space battles. Basically, an author wrote a crack story for Worm, and they also wrote a very serious exploration of a new world. Basically, they had written their own series and then crossed over that series into Worm post Golden Morning, where Taylor takes an adventure in that series.
Oh, I remember that story.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I haven't read it, but I heard what you told you bringing
Yeah,
this up before.
it was god awful. It got very boring. Basically they were technically correct. They good grammar, good spelling, decent pacing, all of that stuff. But the main issue is that their solution to trying to tie more people's interest into the story wasn't make the world more interesting. It was tie more worm shit into the world. And what I mean by that is they had gone like 20 something chapters where the story was just Taylor with insect powers in this new medieval fantasy world where magic existed, but it was only those blessed by elements who could cast that magic, and Taylor being able to control insects made her look like an elemental, not like a mage. And so people were treating her as effectively a god. And so like it was basically it was kind of interesting, you know, it was slowly getting places, but it was interesting. Wasn't getting massive numbers, wasn't, gangbustering. And so the author was like, "Oh, well, and then Lisa shows up and Brian then also shows up and then Alec and Rachel also show up and their powers are also like better now, and then monsters from the other planets also show up, and they just kept escalating, trying to tie more and more worm shit, more characters from Worm showing up, plots from Worm showing up, to try and get people's interest into the story. because their world was super fucking boring because they did a really piss poor job of either creating it or conveying that information to the audience. But then on the flip side, they had this absolute total shitpost of a story that was literally just them smashing their face on the keyboard, going, yeah, that's funny, and then hitting post. And it had like, like at least ×6, maybe ×8 the amount of interaction that his serious story was getting. It drove the author insane, and it made him kill off both stories. Because he's like, I spent weeks writing a chapter for my serious story, and I spent 30 minutes writing a shitpost chapter, and you guys all like the shitpost chapter. It's like, well, yeah. It's because stories are here to entertain us. We are here to be entertained. Entertain us, entertainer.
Dance, monkey, dance.
And that's not to say you can't have deep philosophical stories. Obviously, you can. There's plenty out there. It's just you have to come with the acknowledgement that the average dipshit doesn't want to think. So they're going to read your story about thinking, and they're not going to keep reading the story. They're going to go, this is too much, this is too heavy, this is too dark, I don't like it, I don't like the characters, they're too slow, I would do it better, blah, 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 blah. They're going to find every reason but the real reason as to why they don't want to read your story, and the real reason why they don't want to read your story is because your story makes them think and they don't like that. And so they're going to move on to the popcorn story that's just, haha, me hit big thing, haha, me get woman, haha.
Yes, the caveman brain.
Caveman brain,
I can comfort
caveman
myself with
neuron
that a little.
activate.
And caveman neuron stories are good too. I'm not trying to say they're bad or
I'm
so
not
much better.
saying they're bad. Like I said, they're literally there
feel.
for entertainment. They're there to entertain you. Now, people go to stories majoritarily for that entertainment. They don't go to stories in majority to think deeply on the philosophies of life, consequences of action, cause and effect, that sort of thing. It is what it is. That's just how it is. You just have to accept that's the case. Undying Scarab, again, I'm going to use as a great example. Gray and I did not think we were going to get as many people interested in the story as we did. We thought we were just going to make a single little chapter as a ha-ha funny little thing about Taylor being a necromancer, and yeah, there's going to be this bigger backstory reason as to why she's doing it, how she's doing it, and all of that. But there's just going to be this little tiny thing of like, who's really going to read a worm WoW story?
WoW is not that big, but apparently it
5,000 people apparently is the answer. So we weren't ready for that, but what we were going into is we're going to get maybe like 100 people, maybe like 10 comments, and then we're not going to write any more chapters of it. Yeah, like, yeah, sure.
100 people, 1,000 people later. Or on the first chapter.
Yeah, us being just like, what the fuck is going on? What do you mean 700 people are currently in the fucking chapter?
I
but yeah,
specifically remember her throwing you a screenshot of, oh shit, it just keeps rising.
Yeah, us originally when we first posted the chapters, it was just like, Gray, we have 60 people. And then we hit refresh and it was like, Gray, we have 200 people! What the fuck?
It peaks out at like 400 at
Everyone.
any given time.
Taylor using necromancy to bring back Annette. Taylor brings back Eden.
It seems about right. That's a very worm thing to do.
But yeah,
what kind of author.
You can't always predict where your story is going to end up in the average reader's mind. Now, very clearly, we do have a far more detailed backstory lore going on with plenty of details scattered throughout the chapter. A majority of our readers are not seeing those details. A majority of the readers are coming in with a bowl of fucking popcorn going, damn, this popcorn tastes weird. Who brought me this popcorn? This sucks. And then they keep eating it anyway, and it's like, well, you brought the popcorn, and you're kind of missing all of the details we put into the story, but I mean, hey, if you're enjoying it, good for you, I guess. A lot of them are missing what we're writing, but good for them if they can enjoy it still with their caveman neuron.
Pretty much.
But it is what it is.
I had something like that on the political side of things happen. On one of the worm fics I was writing, I had one person post a comment about how Taylor was acting pretty heroic, but real heroes were political activists and sex worker activists and da 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 da. And like this was like 6-7 paragraphs of rambling, and I appreciate that the thread's response to all of that was essentially lol, Lamau, and then went right back to discussing the story.
Slur, I thought I pronounced it pretty clearly.
Basically.
That's terrible.
But you can't be responsible for when your readers bring in baggage.
Well, yeah, exactly. You cannot be responsible at all for what even your readers take from the story. It's like we had people being like, "Oh man, yeah, Taylor, I hope you genocide all the orcs." It's like,
yeah.
What? I hope you slaughter the orc children and bury orc babies. It's like, bro, are you okay?
That far.
Yeah,
it wasn't that far, but
these are not Warhammer Fantasy orcs. They're fucking D&D orcs.
He went far enough that a mod had to step in and tell him to stop asking for orc genocide.
No, he went far enough that I stepped in.
Right.
Which is close enough to a mod.
Well, no, because then the mod did come in, because we actually have a mod note on the story, I believe, about the whole orc genocide thing.
Do we?
I can't believe a man hates orcs more than the average dwarf. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. But anyway, point being is that we had to step in and be like, bro, you need to stop posting about orc genocide.
We do not have a mod.
We don't have a mod note? Okay.
Because I specifically watch that stuff to make sure it doesn't get that far.
Well, okay, no, actually what I think it was is you came in and said, hey guy, cut it off, and then the mod came in and said the author told you to cut it out.
That probably was it, yeah.
Everyone knows it's the Blood Elves. Well, yes, but no. But the thing is, right, is just like, you're gonna have people that come in to the story either expecting it to be a popcorn fic and then getting angry at you when it's not, even though you never advertised it as a popcorn fic, or they completely take the wrong thinking from the story, or just you can't control. You can only control what you put out, and you can refine it, and you can quality check it, but at the end of the day, what the reader does with that information is completely out of your hands. And so you have to check your expectations. Just because you personally think that combining all of these traits together to makes a really interesting story, doesn't mean a majority of people are gonna do that. And if you're gonna mostly write for yourself, but you want other people to enjoy it, it's fine if you combine the traits that make an interesting story for you. But if your goal is to impart a lesson, a story, entertain the masses, you need to pick the traits that entertain the masses, not the traits that make an interesting story for you personally.
Yeah, and especially when you start delving into more niche topics. Well, one
Yeah.
thing is having waifus discuss stuff that gets you a lot of mileage. Um, which is very strange, but apparently Caveman Brain does have some uses when freaking Fossilors is discussing the nature of power. Um,
Oh, well, yeah, you
but
see a cute woman saying it, then it's important.
yeah, um, and at the same time, it is fun in its own way, and I do think just simply practicing something usually makes you better at it, unless you're practicing it in completely the wrong way.
Yeah.
But
Who would ever do that?
um, not 2/3 of the authors featured on this podcast.
Definitely not 2/3 of the authors featured on this podcast. At
It
least
is in
nine
fact a
tenths.
mystery.
I still love how some of the most eloquent English I've ever read began with, "Sorry, English isn't my first language," and then it is just like pure poetry. And then you have someone who writes like like they literally were just jabbing keys on the board and letting autocorrect do it. And you say, "Hey, maybe you could do a couple editing passes." They're like, "I English good. I English good all life."
He
Why you
sniffed
English
stupid?
gooder
You
than you.
English bad.
he sniffed vicariously.
Oof.
Oh, man. So I'm gonna head out on that note.
All right, man. See you.
Later.
And
Peace.
it is a Tuesday, so we can also close up here. Even though we didn't really read too many stories, we talked about a lot of important things. Hopefully one day one of those things will get us banned. Maybe.
And
Never,
finally,
never
we'll be
had to
free.
do it again.
No, then I can go on my Twitter tour of, hey guys, I got banned for talking about important topics, and then finally we'll hit it big.
God damn
Oh,
it.
Jesus.
He's right, you know.
I know he's right. That just makes it worse.
Exactly. Why tell the truth if it doesn't make you feel worse? All right. Well, on that note.